Peanuts! Peanuts!
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Batter Round, coming to you live from our new Towson studios here in Maryland. It is a beautiful and crisp Saturday morning here on September 10th, 2022, the year of our Lord. Today's show is brought to you by... yeah, Zach's giving me a weird look.
Huh?
The year of our Lord. I don't know. People say that stuff. Today's show brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. The ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screen, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Zach.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Year of our Lord.
The year of our Lord.
I don't know what that means.
People say that stuff.
Really? All right.
People say it. I know
Cool.
people, and we didn't close the damn door again.
This is every week. I got it.
That one was on me. I was the last one in and out of that door, so that one's on me. My apologies. But look, the Orioles, they go on last night to beat the Boston Red Sox 3-2 after a very, very disappointing series against the Toronto Blue Jays. I can't remember in the last several years. There's people doing yard work outside, so that's
it's
nice.
Pleasant.
I can't remember in the last several years a more meaningful, hyped-up day than the doubleheader on Monday. And the Orioles laid a big old fat old egg on Monday. They got swept in the doubleheader. They weren't. I guess they were competitive in Game 1. But, I mean, they lost Game 1 7-3. They lost Game 2 8-4. Funny thing about that series is the team that scored first in all 4 games lost in that series. And for the Orioles, after the first inning on Wednesday, so they got 2 hits off of Alek Manoah and a run in the first inning on Wednesday night, and then they got 1 hit the rest of the game.
Right.
An Adley Rutschman double in like the 8th inning.
Yeah.
They got 1 hit the rest of the game. The last night, the Orioles had 5 hits, but that's kind of misleading. Cedric Mullins and Gunnar Henderson had 5 hits.
Right.
The other 7 guys in the order, a big old ofer.
Right.
This offense is not good right now.
I wanted to use the word sputtering, but I don't think that's a good, really, description of it, because
Right.
it's a lot more than that. It's basically not doing anything at the moment. That's the best way to put it. They have been struggling for way too long, and there's been so many guys really up and down the order that are struggling right now. I mean, we saw it with Austin Hayes and Ryan Mountcastle, and those are 2 guys that we've talked about for weeks now that have been really struggling at the plate. But there's a lot more going on than just them. It's not just them. It's a lot of people in the lineup right now, not really including guys like Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Cedric Mullins. They've been a little bit hotter. Ramon Arias hasn't played awful as of late either. But man, guys like Rougned Odor have been struggling, and I guess they're somewhat predictable. But it's still you got to get it going right now. It's September, and you got to get it going.
Well, the big issue for the Orioles and is now you have guys that you can play where you can't really excuse playing the dudes that are struggling as mightily as
I agree. Yeah.
And you look at Rougned Odor.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually hitting 240 since his
if you consider that a win.
Since his 2-run homer against the Blue Jays back at the beginning of August.
Mm-hmm.
He's hitting 240 since then. I was looking it up last night. But 240 is like all-star for Rougned Odor.
Yeah, I guess
his batting average is back down to 200 right now after his performance last night. Austin Hayes has been... If Austin Hayes were a rookie, he'd be in the minors.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
He'd be in the minors.
No doubt.
There's no doubt about that. We keep waiting for him to hit his way out of this.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, folks. I think he's hurt. I think his hand from getting spiked and from being hit on the wrist like 3 times.
Yeah.
I think he's playing hurt.
I mean, there's got to be something going on.
You're looking at that game the other day when the Orioles scored 5 runs in the third inning. It was Tuesday. They scored 5 runs in the third inning against the Blue Jays to erase a 3-0 deficit. And they're rallying. And after like 5 straight guys reach base, Austin Hayes comes up and pops out on the first pitch.
Yeah.
Kills the rally. This team, by the way, hits more infield pop-ups than any team I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
It's Rougned Odor, every at-bat I've seen all this entire week has been a pop-out to second or short. Mm-hmm. That's all he does.
Yeah.
So everybody... Okay, let's get into this.
Okay.
So on social media last night I said, you're at a point now where you can't justify playing Hayes and Odor every single day. You have guys in Henderson and Stowers and the way Urias is playing, especially defensively, where you don't need to play Odor and Hayes every day. Yet Hyde still does.
Right.
And I understand why, right? Because Odor's been the veteran. He's the vibes.
The clubhouse guy.
Yeah, he's the clubhouse guy, and he loves the way he turns a double play.
Sure.
Okay, well... How many double plays do you need in a game? You need double plays, but how many double plays do you turn in a game? On a great day, 4?
Well, I think the bigger question is how many can Odor turn that another second baseman couldn't?
Right. We act like no other second baseman is
Right.
capable of catching a feed and making a strong throw to first base.
I think it's somewhat. I know that all of the Orioles broadcasters have really talked about how good Rougned Odor is at that, and they say it a lot, and I think that's maybe part of the narrative, is that a lot of people hear it on TV, and that's become a thing that, man, Odor is the best at turning double plays. That's what he's here for. But again, 4 maybe is the most you'll get in a game.
Right.
So
it's usually more like 1 or 2.
Right, and how many is he going to actually turn that another guy couldn't? I think there are perfectly capable people in this team that can make the same play every time. I mean, sure, maybe 1 or 2 throughout the entire year, maybe a little bit more than that other people couldn't have done, but Odor is not that excellent of a defender that he's doing things that other people can't do.
And I don't when the broadcast and I love the broadcasters.
Oh yeah, they're amazing.
Don't get me wrong, but when the broadcasters say it during the game, it's not an original thought. Brandon Hyde said it in a press conference.
So right, and I think that fostered the narrative.
Exactly.
I think that's where it came from. That's why people talk about it as much as they do.
Right, he said it in a press conference, and now people have taken that and they've run with it.
Right.
And it's like, oh, he turns a great double play.
Yeah.
So does every other second baseman worth their salt in Major League
I haven't
Baseball.
seen that many screwed up. I mean, Gunnar Henderson had the one this week, but that was short where he bobbled the ball, and they were only ended up getting 1 out of it. But
he was playing second base.
Was he playing second base? Okay. I think you're correct.
He was playing second base.
But, and it happens every once in a while, again. But, like you said, anybody worth their salt, anybody can play in the major leagues alone, I mean, they're going to be able to turn a double play. If you're a major league second baseman, you can turn a double play. And maybe Rougned Odor does it slightly better than you, but I don't think that's a reason to play a guy. That's certainly not a reason to play a guy.
And then... The gripes with Odor have been well documented on this show and on the other shows that I've done all season. That's nothing new. Austin Hayes, I said this last night, and I said you can't justify playing him.
Yeah.
And people said I beg to differ, and a slap in the face type of meme, and or GIF. I mean, and so it's. Let me ask you something.
Okay.
Austin Hayes. Are you really willing to focus on the hot 2.5 months he had at the beginning of the season and say that's who he is? Or are you focusing on the 2.5 months since then where he's been awful?
Well, I think it's fair to say both of us love Austin Hayes. And we're rooting for Austin Hayes, and he's a guy who's shown us in the past he's much more than what he is right now. He's much more than that. But I think, when you're in a playoff race, if this was any other year, I'd say keep playing Austin Hayes. It's fine. He's going to break out of it at some point. But this is a year where the Orioles are in a legitimate playoff race. For the first time since 2017, they are in a legitimate playoff race. So to keep playing a guy who's struggling as mightily as he has, I think it's more of a what have you done for me lately than what have you done for me throughout the entire season. You got to look at it more individually as far as these months go than over the broader span of the year, right?
Right.
You've got to look at it with a more narrowed focus because this is a playoff race, and you want to get the best guys in the lineup. And I know Kyle Stowers hasn't exactly been lighting it up either, but he's been okay.
How could he?
He's not playing a ton either.
He's not getting the opportunity.
Right. And I think if he does get more opportunity, he'll probably, start to play a little better. But I think with Kyle Stowers, you get a little bit of the unproven. You don't know. And maybe that's a good thing for them. Maybe Kyle Stowers provides a spark because you don't exactly know what you're going to get. And Austin Hayes, you probably know at this point what you're getting for the rest of September. And that's unfortunate because September's usually been his month. I mean, if you look at his career numbers, he's always the best in September. And personally, I've been waiting for him to break out and have a game. And then we go, there's Austin Hayes in September, but he hasn't done it yet. He just hasn't. Every
at-bat is either a strikeout or a pop-out.
Yeah.
He's not close. And he does this thing where on his pop-outs and his fly-outs, where he hops out of the box like he just got a base hit. But the ball goes straight up in the air, and it lands in a fielder's glove.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. I can't tell you how many times I was fooled. Like, oh, maybe that was actually a better hit than it looked like off the bat, and then I see it looking like what I thought it was.
One gripe I've had with Hayes for years is the check swings. There's so many check swings, and he started to work on that a little bit, I think, this year, and it's been a little bit different. But, man, I mean, Austin Hayes the discipline is just not there. It's non-existent. And it's hard to watch because he just – he doesn't really recognize any of these pitches. No matter what it is, he's not recognizing it, and he's swinging through, and it's a struggle right now. And I wonder if launch angle has something to do with all the pop-ups. Maybe trying to get a little more launch angle in his swing and launch the ball a little higher. Maybe that has something to do with it, but that's one thing I've noticed.
I think he just has he doesn't know where the barrel is.
He doesn't
right now. No. I think that he's just struggling so much that he's trying to hit a grand slam on every swing.
Yeah.
And that's getting in his way. He's not really staying with himself, not trying to go straight back up the box. He's just, I need a hit. I got to contribute. And I know that probably more than half of this is beyond the physical limitations. It's a mental thing.
Sure, it has to be
with him. He's better than what he's done the last 2.5 months, and we can know that, and know that this isn't the real Austin Hayes, but also say, you can't play right now.
Right.
You got to figure this out. You can't play and be in the lineup every day in a playoff race if you're hitting below 200 since the end of June. You can't do it.
It's rough.
And it's not, I don't know, maybe he does have the same vibes that Odor does, but you can't have two of those guys in your lineup. I mean, this is something we talked about all year, whether it was Odor, Nevin, and Chirinos playing. Yeah. We've talked about it all year. You shouldn't have any of those guys, let alone two in your lineup that are automatic outs.
Well, again, and you're past the point in this rebuild, and if you want to even call it that at this point, you're past the point of playing guys just to play them. You're playing guys to win right now. You're playing guys who are the best possible options at all possible moments. You're not playing guys because you want to get them in the lineup. And that's been, I think, one of our gripes with Brandon Hyde, that he's put guys in because he wants to put them in and wants to see them there. But frankly, the fact is that he needs to be putting in the guys that are going to win them the most ball games. And I think he started to do that over the last, stretch of games or so. But you look at Austin Hayes, and he's still been in the lineup way too often. And it's a struggle. And hopefully he figures it out. I'm rooting for the guy. We may see him get moved this offseason. I think we're going to talk about that a little later. But it's definitely a possibility with the way he's played.
Yeah. Look, like you said, we love Austin Hayes.
Yeah.
When Austin Hayes is right, he's damn good.
Yeah.
He's not right. It's been clear for a good while now that he's not right. So, and look, guys, here's the other thing. I'll say I love players. I love players when they're playing well for the Orioles, and that sounds unfair, right? But if you're in a 2.5 month stretch of hitting below 200 and showing no power, no offensive production, I still like you. I still think you have the potential to be a good player. But I don't need to see you in the lineup. To me, when I watch you come up, and if I watch you come up and I feel, oh, God, here's an automatic out, it's not a personal thing.
No.
You're not helping the team win. So it's not that I don't like you. It's you're not helping the team win. And that's what I look at. Somehow, Rougned Odor has managed to take 12 key hits this year and make that last an entire season. But
he's a fan favorite. I don't know why, but he is.
Yeah. Anyway, not a fan favorite situation that happened the other day.
No.
Was Tyler Wells and Dean Kramer. And
yeah.
we love Tyler Wells. We love Dean Kramer. And they both have pitched very well for the Orioles this year. Mm-hmm. Wells made one rehab start coming back from this injury in the minors. And they call him up to start the game on Wednesday and move as an opener and move Dean Kramer into a bullpen role. Yeah. Dean Kramer, the previous 6 starts, averaged over 6 runs and then over 6 starts a game and had an ERA of about 2.6.
Yeah.
His last start against the Blue Jays in the middle of August, he went 7 innings. He gave up 2 runs in the first inning and then nothing else.
Yeah.
And then Tyler Wells gets the start on Wednesday. And I understand wanting your best pitchers available to you. Mm-hmm. I get that. And I understand that Tyler Wells has been on a starter's routine this year. But so has Dean Kramer.
Yeah.
And Dean Kramer's been here pitching well, with the exception of July.
Yeah.
He's been here pitching well all year, especially the last 6 starts. And yeah, optimally, the ideal situation is Wells comes out and he gives you 2-3 innings of shutout ball. Then you can bring in Kramer and get 5 to 6 innings out of him. You save the bullpen, and you give yourself an opportunity to win the game. It'd also be nice if the offense would have more than one
that
run
would help
on 3 hits. So that it's not really on them. But why Tyler Wells is a guy who has relief experience here. And they both are on starters' routines. And I get that you're not bringing Dean Kramer in until it's a clean inning for him. Why would you not start Kramer and then use Wells in relief? Why would you break that up?
That seems like the logical use.
And people were justifying it, and I get the justification, but they're both starters. They're both on starters' routines. One guy hasn't pitched in a month and a half and is coming off an injury and is still rusty. One guy has been pitching his balls off for 6 straight starts and dominated the team that you're facing the last time you faced them. It doesn't make sense to me to not have that guy be the guy that starts the game.
Right.
And then maybe he gives you 9 innings, or maybe he gives you 8 innings or 7 innings of 1 to 2 run ball, and you don't need to use Tyler Wells.
That would have been optimal.
Right.
I'm not an opener guy. I've never been an opener guy.
Hate the opener.
It's never made a lot of sense to me, and I get that. Well, I guess there is some logic behind it with arm care and that becoming such a big issue across baseball. I talked about that on the show last week, but arm care is a big thing, and I get that openers kind of help out with that. But from a logical standpoint, when you look at it as far as wins and losses go, I personally don't think it's a very productive thing. And especially with a guy who has really only pitched once since, returning from his injury. So Tyler Wells is a very good pitcher at his best. But what Brandon Hyde should have realized is that Tyler Wells was not going to be at his best, and clearly wasn't at all at his best. He was fine, but he certainly wasn't what he was when he was pitching to the 3.9 ERA at the start of the season. He was the Orioles' best starter, and if you look at a lot of the metrics, there are some metrics to say he is some of the best pitches in baseball. And I don't think he's quite back to that quite yet, but I'm sure he will be. And that's why I've kept saying, when we talk about Tyler Wells in the show, let's ease him back in. I don't think letting him start is at all easing him back in. That's throwing him right into the fire. Mm-hmm. And I think it's also a little disrespectful to Dean Kramer, based on the way he's...
I thought so,
That's
too.
what you're saying, too, right. And I think based on the way he's pitched, he's earned a spot. He's not a follower. This is a guy who can give you 6 innings on command. Mm-hmm. He's done it. So why not let him do it again, right? Like, I look at it as, give Dean Kramer the first 6. Let him go. Hopefully he gives you, 3-run ball or less. And then you bring in Wells. Give him the 7th. That's fine. And then you have your back-end relievers for the 8th and 9th if you're winning. To me, that makes a lot more logical sense than what they did. Openers, never the answer in my opinion. They're just never the move.
And I just don't know how you can look at it and say Tyler Wells hasn't pitched since, the end of July, beginning of August. He has 1 rehab start. Mm-hmm. He's ready.
Someone made a comment that said Tyler Wells might have started because of some computer algorithm telling them that was the right move. I would not doubt that at all. That's a probably pretty decent idea of what happened. Like they liked the matchup or something, and the computer said that was the right move to open with him and then use Dean Kramer in relief. I don't know. Not my thing personally.
God, man, I hate that. Look, there's a place for everything, right? And I get that analytics and all that stuff has helped with the Orioles pitching this year. I get that. Sometimes you just got to put that aside and say, this is where we are. These are people, right? These are people. And just because it says that this is a likely outcome, these are still human beings that are fallible.
Right.
You will never convince me that a starting pitcher who is new to starting at the big league level, who doesn't have a ton of experience, who got injured, was rarely giving you more than 4 or 5 innings to start to begin with. Now you're going to tell me he's been injured for 6 weeks. He comes back after one rehab start and he's back to where he was. No, come on.
Right.
He needed another ramp up, and
again, I don't think you can expect him to be, and that's the problem.
And that's the thing. If there was a computer algorithm that said, well, this is are they factoring in that Tyler Wells hasn't pitched in 6 free? I almost said the F word. That Tyler Wells hasn't pitched in 6 freaking weeks.
Right.
Whatever. To me, it's disrespectful to Dean Kramer. It's cutting your nose off to spite your face. That's a game you need to win.
Yeah.
It's a game you need to win because these teams in front of you aren't losing. The Rays won last night. The Blue Jays won last night. Yeah. The Mariners lost, but it feels like that's their first loss in 3 months, right? Like these teams in front of you aren't giving you anything.
Yeah.
So when there's an opportunity for you to take something, you have to take it.
Right.
And I'll tell you that on Tuesday, that win on Tuesday, Brandon Hyde put on a masterclass.
He did.
Of managing.
He absolutely
He
did.
was absolutely phenomenal. My problem is, why has he not been doing that for the last month? Why has he not been managing like that for the last month? And I'm not saying bring in Dylan Tate in the 4th inning when you're down 3-0 every time it happens. But why not the tenacity and the fire to say, we need this win? Why not every single day manage like that? And that's been my biggest issue. My biggest issue with they've lost 11 straight day games because of the lineups that he puts out.
Well, I think that's our same argument with the whole Hayes thing, is that you're putting him in the lineup, yet he's not hitting.
Right.
So are you really putting your best foot forward?
You're not. And you got to stop. I know. You have to come into a clubhouse every single day and look each one of your players in the eye and explain your moves one way or the other. And that sucks, man. But that's the job. This isn't, I'm going to hang out with my friends. This is a freaking, I almost said the F word again. This is a freaking business.
Getting fired up.
This is a business, and you're in the business of winning baseball games. You're not in the business anymore of evaluating talent at the major league level to see if they could be a piece in the future. The future is here. You have to manage like your hair is on fire. And I'm not qualified, I guess. But I know a little bit about baseball, and I know a little bit about being competitive nature. One of my biggest flaws is I'm overly competitive.
Yeah.
That's why when I see what's happening, when I see Brandon Hyde, and I see the capability of him to manage like it's a playoff atmosphere to win a game, and he's not doing that every single game down the stretch. When you're in a playoff race, I get mad. Because what he did on Tuesday is how he should be managing every single day the rest of the year and the weeks before that. Moving on. Grayson Rodriguez is making his 3rd rehab start on Sunday.
Yes.
The results have been, okay. Still rusty. Let's throw him in to start instead of Kyle Bradish.
Use him as an opener.
Right. Do you think after Sunday we see him in Baltimore?
I think what I think and what I hope are 2 different things. I hope not. I don't want to see Grayson Rodriguez in Baltimore this year because I really want... Yeah, I just want to take this as carefully as possible. You know, it's such an important person in this rebuild. He is almost... I would say in the minors, from the people that are left, he is the most important person right now. He is the number 1 guy that's going to make the difference on this team in the coming 3 or 4 years. I want to keep that guy as healthy as I possibly can, and I want to keep that guy as confident as I possibly can. If the Orioles were to bring him in and give him a few relief appearances, a few starts, whatever it was, it's not going to be a lot because there's so little time left in the season. And say he got shelled, and he didn't feel 100% healthy, and there were some things going on. That does a lot to a player's mental state. So for me, I think it's best just to let him keep rehabbing, maybe throw him in AAA for the end of the year. I know there's not much time again left there either, but let him make a few more starts, let him make a few more relief appearances, whatever you want to do, and just try to keep the guy as healthy as possible. Overworking him is definitely not the answer, and I don't think they would do that if they brought him to Baltimore. But then again, you got to consider that there are 28 players on the roster, and you've got to use all of them at some point, and inevitably he's going to have to be used. So it's probably a little easier just to stash him in AAA and not have him pitch quite as much. But that's kind of where I stand on it.
See, this is where I disagree with you.
Okay.
Not that I necessarily need to see Grayson Rodriguez.
Yeah.
As a fan, I'd love to see him pitch at the major league level, but I want what's best for Grayson Rodriguez. We need to stop thinking that some of them are, but we need to stop thinking that professional athletes on the broad spectrum are fragile mental cases. These guys are superior athletes. The mental toughness that you need to get to this level, they're not normal human beings. They're special. It takes a special kind of person to be able to do this. Okay? I look at DL Hall. Got knocked around his first start. Knocked around. Comes back his first relief appearance. He gets 3 up, 3 down with a big strikeout. His next relief outing gets knocked around by the Blue Jays. They bring him back out yesterday, inning in the third scoreless. These guys have mental tenacity. I don't think you need to worry about what you're going to do to his mindset. Because
okay. But what about the arm care argument?
The arm care is one thing. That's one thing. But the mindset to get to this level, you have to have a strong mind. You have to have the most confidence in the world. You have to believe in yourself, even when other people didn't believe in you. People believed in Grayson Rodriguez his entire life.
A little bit.
But Grayson Rodriguez, to me, if he came to the major league and gave up 6 runs in the third of an inning, it would not change him whatsoever.
And it might not.
I think he'd go right back into the lab and be determined to come out and throw 6 one-hit innings his next start.
I guess my broader point is, and I know we do need to get Stan on the phone here, but my broader point is that do you want 95% of Grayson Rodriguez or 100% of Grayson Rodriguez?
95% of Grayson Rodriguez is better than probably 95% of the pitchers on your roster.
Possibly, though.
And eventually, right?
Yeah.
But
right.
Are you saying 95% of Grayson Rodriguez, they're not going to... He wouldn't be pitching in the minors if he wasn't at 100%.
Well, he's probably still building up, though. I can't imagine
he's building.
Great.
He's building up, but physically, his arm is at 100%. He wouldn't be pitching if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Right. But they're building him up to keep his arm at 100%. Being at 100% doesn't mean I can go out. I can go out there and throw 95 pitches tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It means, can I give it everything I've got on a given pitch and not have to worry about my arm falling off?
Yeah.
And Grayson Rodriguez is at that point, otherwise he wouldn't be stepping on the mound.
So if it's not a mental thing, I don't disagree with you there. You got a good point. These guys are tough mental cases. They are tough. But I do worry about how much
physical, yes.
How much work he'd have to get. And I want the Orioles to be able to have 100% the best Grayson Rodriguez possible in 2023.
But you also have to. They're not going to bring him up to be a 6-7 inning starter this year. If they bring him up, it's going to be to use him like Tyler Wells or like DL Hall. They're not bringing him up to say, hey, go out there and throw me 98 pitches in over 6 in the third innings. He's coming up to be an opener or a long relief guy or a swing man, something like that. Guys, we've got a great show ahead for you. Stan the Fan Charles is going to be on the line with us here in just a matter of moments at 11 o'clock, and we've been trying so hard to get him on the show, and he's just such a busy guy, but we finally, from The Athletic, have Dan Connolly. He'll join us at 11 for about 15 minutes. We've got Orioles banter, the payoff pitch around the league, and everybody's favorite, Take to Rake, even though we have no idea what the standings are in Take to Rake. We keep saying we're going to figure it out, but we just haven't.
We will. We will.
But I'm pretty sure Zach has a commanding lead.
I don't think it's by that many.
But we'll figure it out one of these days. Until then, Joining us on the line now for his weekly segment, he is Stan the Fan. Charles, he has shows for you. He has multiple shows for you weekly. He's live with us now here on the Bat Around. Stan, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Doing very well, very well. Nice to see the Orioles get back into the win column last night, Stan. However, the Orioles have 5 hits, and they all came from 2 players, Gunnar Henderson and Cedric Mullins. How concerning has the lack of the Orioles' offense been for you the last few weeks?
Well, of course, it's concerning. The one player that really stands out with a real stench is Mr. Hayes.
Yeah.
He's just been absolutely awful.
Yeah.
I don't see. I have to be honest with you. I've waxed and waned on him at different points in his career. I told you I used to have him on my fantasy team.
Sure.
So I clearly saw something that I liked in him. When I traded him last July, he went on a tear and was on that tear for the second half of July, all of August, all of September. And the beginning of this year, the first 6-8 weeks, he was a terrific ball player. Looked like he was like somebody that was like established. And I do not understand what's happened to him. Those at-bats last night were just absolutely pathetic.
All of his at-bats recently have been absolutely pathetic. And I think, he's playing hurt. I think that it's on the same hand he got spiked sliding into first base where he had to have his hand stitched up. He's been hit on that wrist by a pitch like 3 different times. I think he's playing hurt, and then even if he's hurt and he's overcompensating for something, then the mental creeps in, and you start to think, am I ever going to get a big hit again? And I just think for him, he needs a reset. But he's in that lineup every single day. We talked about it at length to start the show. Now, Stan, this recent stretch.
I've defended him at times because of some hand injuries, but hand injuries don't explain the way he swung at pitches last night. Yeah, I mean, he made Bayo look like he was the second coming of Roger Clemens or something like that.
Yeah, he missed a breaking ball last week, Stan, against Verlander. He was about 2 feet away from touching that pitch. His swing decisions and his bat to ball ratio just is not good right now. Now,
2 strikeouts last night, and then I was watching some of the tennis, and I was watching flipping back and forth, and then I'll follow it on ESPN so I can keep my score sheet. And so he struck out twice and bounced to the pitcher last night. His just decision making right now, and if he's playing that hurt, his decision to keep playing is not helping the team at all.
Yeah, and at some point, and we were Zach and I were just talking about this, and I got pretty heated about it, Stan. At some point, Brandon Hyde needs to be able to tell his players that aren't performing, look, we're in a playoff race. This is not personal. I need somebody in the lineup that can get the job done right now. Maybe you don't use it in those exact words, but it's his job to put the best product on the field. And at times, I feel like he's like, well, these guys are my friends, so I want to play them, instead of doing what's necessary to go out and win a ball game.
I don't think he feels that way, that they're my friends at all. I think he understands what his responsibilities are. I just don't know that he thinks he's got better options. And I think the way McKenna's played this year, I'd much rather have McKenna playing than Austin Hayes.
Why do you feel like we aren't seeing as much of Kyle Stowers? I feel like Kyle Stowers has done a decent job, and he just hasn't been in the lineup all that often.
I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him to say that he warrants more time right now. I see a lot of swing and miss in him right now.
Oh yeah.
Clearly he's got tremendous bat speed, and he plays a little like his pants are on fire too. Defensively, I'm not in love with what I'm seeing with him so far. So, to me, McKenna is the more safe option right now that might provide you a little uptick. Look, we've talked about this for weeks now. The offense took a shot when they lost Austin Hayes, and I guess the calculation was, we'll get rid of Hayes, we'll get these prospects, and we've got Gunnar coming. And Gunnar has been, he's been good. He hasn't been yet astoundingly good up to this point, but he's going to be a really fine player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, I'm not worried about the Orioles offense in the future, because I think that they have more players of the same ilk of
Colton Cowser.
Like Colton Cowser, I think he's going to be a really good player, and Henderson and Rutschman with more seasoning are going to be phenomenal. But do you feel like that this offense, the way it's going, just kind of makes it even more glaring that they need a legitimate bat in the middle of this order moving forward that maybe isn't in-house already?
It sure looks that way and feels that way, but I don't know if that's where the dollars are going to get spent.
Right. Right. No, I hear you on that.
I think they feel. I think they. I think this season caught them a little by surprise.
Mm-hmm.
The 10-game winning streak that propelled them into being a contending team for a wild card spot. I think it caught them off guard. But I don't see them going out and getting like Xander Bogaerts or somebody a real bat for the middle of this lineup. I don't see it happening.
Yeah,
I think the dollars are going to get spent on pitching, and they feel like the long-term answers are in place right now.
Yeah,
I mean, could they sign a Trey Mancini or a Trey Mancini-like guy for a 2-year, $22 million deal? Yeah, but I don't think you're going to get like one of the main bats that's in free agency. I don't see that coming.
Probably not. And the Orioles haven't signed a free agent that wasn't their own free agent, and I want to say since Albert Bell, a free agent of that magnitude.
Right.
Well, I mean, Tejada and Javi Lopez and Palmeiro in that one-off season, but aside from that, it hasn't been. They haven't done it, and that was a long time ago.
That's not their MO. But back then, they didn't even develop players.
Yeah, that's
now
true.
the pipeline is. I'm not saying it's overriding with talent right now, but it's getting there.
Yeah.
I went to see Grayson Rodriguez pitch the other night, and one of the benefits of that was seeing Kobe Mayo play again healthy. And he didn't do much that night, but the next night he hit a home run.
Yeah, his bat speed is incredible.
Yeah. He's going to be a good player. It may take him a little while, but he's going to figure it out. He's going to be a real good player.
I think so, too. Now, Stan, just this time last week, we were talking about how great the Orioles starting rotation has been over the last 5 or 6 weeks. And then this week, Austin Voth, he goes 4 innings last night. Wells, now I know it was an opening start. He went 2 on Wednesday, Bradish 3 on Tuesday, Aiken 2 1/3 in place of Jordan Lyles on Monday in Game 2, Mike Ballman 5 innings in Game 1. And again, we know the Wells was brought back to be the opener with Kramer in relief. Aiken had to make that spot start when Lyles showed up to the ballpark sick. But the Orioles haven't gotten length out of their starters all week. Do you think that this is more of a hiccup or just a product of the teams that they've been playing?
I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I'm trying to be as honest as I can. Glenn and I last Friday were talking sort of about this abundance of starting pitching, and then it's almost like, and where, who were they going to spend the dollars on versus who was, sort of a prospect to not be on the team next year. I mean, Watkins, for all of what I thought of him coming into this season, he had a stretch of games where it seemed like every game he was not allowing a run for 5 or 6 innings, And now all of a sudden, I read that he was optioned out. Voth has not looked particularly good his last 2 starts.
Right.
But the real head scratcher for me was of all the starting pitchers this year that to me really look like they have staying power. I thought Dean Kramer is pretty much number 1 on my list. And at least I didn't understand the move to take Kramer out of, not
Right.
start Kramer the other night. I would have done it exactly the opposite way.
Yeah.
I know you want to get Wells in 2 or 3 innings in a game, but I would have pitched Kramer until at least the 6th inning, and sort of postpone that for a night if Kramer is hurling a great game, for a game that you had to win, to kind of experiment with Tyler Wells as an opener. I think that the possibility of putting Kramer off his game was not the right risk to take that night. I didn't like it at all.
Stan, from your lips to God's ears, and you said it perfectly, to experiment in a game that you need to win, I hated it too. I hated it too.
Yeah.
Kramer's been dominant for his last 6 starts. The last time he faced
Yep.
the Blue Jays, he gave up 2 runs over 7 innings. And now Tyler Wells, who's made 1 rehab
And
start.
that was the game, and that was the game Manoah was pitching, correct?
Right, exactly.
So you're up against their true ace on that staff is him,
Right.
Manoah. He's the best pitcher that they have, in my opinion.
Right.
And to do that, you're taking perhaps your best starter, Dean Kramer, and sort of experimenting with, let's see if he can come in behind him, be the bulk guy. It just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I did not like it.
I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. I didn't like the hole. To me, the hole in the pitching staff while Wells has been down, and this is not a knock against Tyler Wells. It's just the hole in the staff has been the arm missing in the bullpen, not in the rotation. And I just thought that the whole decision to bring Wells back with 3.5 weeks in the season and try and use him in a starting capacity, whether it's as an opener or thinking they can ramp him up. I don't know why they wouldn't have said, hey, this is the guy, at least for the remainder of this season. We're going to pitch him in the 7th or 8th inning when we need him to hand the ball to Bautista.
Stan, where do you think that decision came from?
I really don't know. I just think for a team that's fired on mostly all the right cylinders on things, on acquisitions and teaching things, this one really caught me off guard because it's been the most glaring need that the staff has had for 5 or 6 weeks since the trade of Jorge Lopez. Is, hey, we never really replaced Jorge Lopez, and to me, Wells coming back off the IL this late in the year, there was no sense in trying this opener crap.
Yeah.
I would have just simply plugged him in and said, hey, this isn't forever. We still see you as a starter, but right now we have a need, and this is the need you can fulfill. And seeing what that was like, that's to me what the experiment would have been like. And you already had, the whole last year watching him as a relief pitcher, how dominant he could be there. So I thought they took a chance to strengthen the staff for the run, and they sort of threw the whole thing off.
Yeah,
Now,
agree.
in fairness, the timing and unfortunateness of Jordan Lyles getting sick the other day was just, it was a nightmare for them.
Yeah, no, it was an absolute nightmare for them. They had to use way more pitchers in that doubleheader, and I think they knew they had to use a lot of pitchers regardless, but they had to use way more, I think, than they ever expected. And Stan, the result was they lost 3 of 4 to Toronto. Do you feel like that put the Orioles behind the 8 ball the rest of the way, because these teams aren't losing in front of them? I mean, Seattle, I said to Zach, it feels like they lost for the first time in 3 months last night.
Right.
Are the Orioles behind the 8 ball at this
Seattle's schedule is so easy the rest of the year. From this point on, they play these 2 more games against the Braves. Then they have two in San Diego. Their last 20 games are against Oakland, Texas, L.A., and Detroit.
Right.
So they figure to go seriously like 16-4. So they're the number 1 wild card team.
I agree.
They won't get past Houston. Tampa may end up winning the division. The Yankees are in a total free fall right now, but we're not getting past Tampa. Tampa's getting refortifications.
Franco came back last night with 3 hits.
I know. He's back, and Margot came back last week. They got somebody else back, too. Brandon Lau. Is he the Lau or is he the Low?
He's
I
Lau.
Can't remember.
He's Lau.
Brandon Lau. Anyway, he's back as well, so they're refortified. Our best chance is a best of collapsing Yankee team, which is hard to imagine we'd even be talking that. Or still, the Tampa has a bit tougher schedule than the Orioles have, and they did what they had to do last night. They need to win 4 of 6 or 5 of 6 from Boston, and they need to do the same thing to Toronto. We need to win 5 of 6 or 4 of 6 to be in this thing. We got one really tough series, against Houston, a 4-game series against the Astros. But I don't see this team suddenly collapsing the Orioles. They got a good momentum going. They were due for a little comeuppance, and Toronto's a good club. Listen, Toronto last night led all night until the bottom of the 8th inning, and Texas tied them up, and then they came back and scored a run in the 9th. They could have easily lost that game.
Yeah, no, Toronto's
Toronto's
a good ball club.
They blew. Of course, they blew the lead that Ross Stripling had because he's on my fantasy team. Haven't had a win all week. Unbelievable.
No. Well, yeah, and also I think Toronto has to play Tampa 9 times still. So this could really come down to that final series in Baltimore, the last 3 games of the year with Toronto.
It's still quite possible that that's the case. Look, the Orioles have had a successful season no matter how this finishes. If they wouldn't win another game this year, this would have been a remarkably impressive season to me.
Yeah, no,
of course, I don't expect them to lose every game right now, but the fact that they could finish over 500 is pretty darn remarkable, given where they were at the end of last year.
It absolutely is. From 110 losses to potentially 85 wins, around that number, it's impressive. It certainly is impressive. Now, Stan, the pitching has been a lot better this year, and that's why the Orioles have been a lot better. And the analytics and moving the ball back, all that has helped. But I think that the defense, being night and day from last year, has been one of the main culprits for why the Orioles pitching has been so much better. We know about Mateo, we know about Mullins and how well they've played defensively. Ramon Arias, he has, and we won't get into the sabermetrics of it all. There's a lot of confusing names for these things.
The terminology gets defensive runs saved and all this stuff. They've played much better defense. There's no question about it.
Ramon Arias, from the numbers that he has, would rate as arguably the best defensive third baseman in the American League right now. Ryan Mountcastle, to me, has been one of the most surprising ones. He's one of the top defensive first basemen in the American League right now. How big is it that the Orioles? I remember Mountcastle didn't have a position, and now he's one of the best defensive first basemen in the American League, at least this season. How big is that for this team now and moving forward?
It's huge. The great Oriole teams at any time in their history, the great teams from, say, 66 to 1980, 83, that 17-year run, the most consistent thing they had was incredible defense and incredible pitching, And that's still... you need to score runs. There's no question about it. But the teams that give away runs are the teams that are always on the outside looking in, and this has been a remarkable sort of renaissance of Oriole defense this year, and to me, Mateo has really led the way. Odor has been a terrific pickup this year. As much as I hated the pickup when they made it, didn't see how it fit at all, because I was thinking offense only. but he's been terrific on turning these double plays. And Mountcastle and Urias have been really, really solid.
Yeah, no, and it brings me to my next question for you. The Orioles, we've talked about their logjam in the outfield and all these great players that they have coming up, but now you look at the infield. You've got Gunnar Henderson, Ramon Urias, and Jorge Mateo already in the majors. Jordan Westburg and Joey Ortiz in AAA. Connor Norby, Cesar Prieto, and Kobe Mayo in AA. You can't play all these guys. And, next year you have to wonder, is Urias moving back over to second base where he was a plus defender last year and Gunner's at third base? At the end of the day, not all these guys can be on your major league roster. Do you anticipate some of these guys, because they're knocking on the door, being traded this offseason as part of a package to supplement the big league roster?
Yeah, I would think they're getting very close to that time where they have enough surplus. And the great thing about Mike and Sig and how they draft is you used to sort of keep your fingers crossed that Andy McPhail or Dan would pick up something impressive in the draft.
Right.
I have the utmost respect that this pipeline, as long as Elias and his team are here, Brad Ciliak, I think that you just look at every draft as another great opportunity to pour, 7 to 10 really good players into your system, that are going to be there. We haven't even really, we hardly talk about it because we really don't know all the parameters of who they're signing internationally and all that.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't gotten the first benefit yet of something that figures to start to pay off very shortly.
Right. And
I'd say in the next 2 to 3 years, we're suddenly going to have. It won't be a spigot full running through the pipeline, but we're going to have spitting out a couple kids that really can play and also can be used in deals. So the strength of the club right now is it's really quite remarkable. Really is.
Cesar Prieto was an international signing back in January, Stan, and he has the lowest strikeout rate of any player in the entire organization, majors through minors. And I saw him the other night at Bowie. I wasn't impressed with Prieto. I know he's in one base. He's an on base machine, but I saw a really just terrible play. There was a pop up in the infield that was clearly the shortstop's ball, and Prieto that night was playing third base, and it was like he wouldn't listen to the shortstop, and they excuse my language, they dropped the ball. Neither one of them caught the ball. Yeah,
it's just absolutely terrible.
Yeah, and that's something that
Hernandez was the shortstop. That kid's going to be a hell of a player too.
Friend of the show, Eric Garfield, told me that he saw a little bit of Prieto down when he was, in Sarasota, and the defense was definitely not there. That's kind of the scouting report I've heard on Prieto from him. So Eric's got a really good scouting eye, so I'll take his word for it there. And it seems like the defense hasn't been, maybe as advertised with him. But you look at the contact, the knowledge of the strike zone, and I guess Prieto starts to become a little bit of a better prospect when you look at him with that perspective.
Yep.
Now, Stan, I know that it's a baseball show. Ravens kick off their season tomorrow. Lamar Jackson not under contract beyond this year, and now they're tabling negotiations until next offseason. Do you think that they ultimately get a deal done with Lamar, and what are your expectations for this season?
I think they ultimately get a deal done with Lamar, provided he takes a step forward in terms of doing some things, decision making, and continues to win football games.
Yeah,
it's just it's an interesting way this has worked out, but it's kind of similar to what they did with Flacco. When they offered Flacco a certain level deal, and Flacco said, "I think I'm better than that," and went out and won a Super Bowl, and then they sort of had to pay him. I think there's enough intrigue into whether Lamar can take a team to that next level in the playoffs. I think I think if he wins one more of those playoff games, the ones we're talking about against Tennessee, Buffalo, or the Chargers, I think we're not even having this conversation. I think he would have been signed by now.
I agree.
You know, but
I agree.
Those playoff games were sort of mystifying, and they exposed certain things he has to get better at. You know, there's no question that he's a better player than Deshaun Watson. There's no question he's a better player than Kyler Murray. And there's Russell Wilson is really a terrific quarterback. And I don't think Murray and Deshaun Watson are in their range. But he's got the unfortunateness of being about 32 years old, whereas these other guys are much younger, and they're the ones getting the money.
Yeah.
But I think objectively, you take the emotion out of this, they want to see him perform at a higher level and not make mistakes. You know.
I get
and
that.
it's interesting. It's interesting that he decided that what he needed to do was bulk up. It's just interesting to me, because I wonder if is he going to settle on saying, "Hey, I'm going to be more of a passer in the pocket," or is he going to still be as elusive and just incredibly like ballet-like performer running the football? I don't know how that factors into it. You know?
Well, I'll tell you that if you look at world-class sprinters, they're all bulked up. They're all really cut up guys. So I think that it's okay for him to put on the muscle as long as it's lean muscle mass. I don't think he bulked up in the way that Chris Davis did. I think he bulked up in a very lean way.
Right.
So.
Right. I would hope so. And he probably knows why he did that, and maybe he feels he needs to be a little stronger to withstand some hits
probably
that he was taking.
I would imagine that would be the case. All right, Stan, thank you so much. Enjoy the football games tomorrow, and we'll talk to you next Saturday, okay?
All right, and don't forget the U.S. Open tomorrow at 4 o'clock. This kid, this has been a real joy this past week watching this kid Carlos Alcaraz play. He's just been remarkable.
All eyes will be on that after the Ravens take apart the Jets tomorrow. All right, Stan, talk to you next week.
Hope so. All right, bye.
See you. And that was Stan the Fan, Charles, who has two great shows for you every week. Every Monday night, Stan and former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley visit with a different guest from the world of baseball. And every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. This week, Stan caught up with Baltimore Sports Collectibles' Danny Black, while Stan and Gary previewed the Ravens and the NFL season with former GM and 105.7 The Fan host Vinny Serrato. Find these shows under the Videos tab at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or at PressBoxOnline.com/video. Stan and Ross are back on Monday with former Orioles GM Jim Duquette. Just want to remind you, today's show is brought to you by Maryland 5-Star. See Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th through 16th in Cecil County. Well, when we come back, Dan Connolly from The Athletic will join us next on the Bat-Around.
Come in for Glory Burgers, Glory Wings. There's glory for everyone at Glory Days Grill. Enjoy their award-winning burgers, ribs, and wings, or try the fresh salads, hand-cut salmon, or the scrumptious sandwiches. Yum! Come in for the daily specials every weekday, like $7.99 burgers on Mondays and $6.99 nachos on Thursdays. Dine in and let us serve you, or order online at glorydaysgrill.com and take it home. That's glorydaysgrill.com for a location near you. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
What's up, everyone? This is Tyus Bowser, and I'm excited to tell you that I'm back for Season 2 of The Tyus Bowser Show in partnership with PressBox and Great H Memorabilia. Join us on Tuesday nights throughout the season, as I'll be heading all over town with my special guests, and of course, our co-hosts, Glenn and Rita. Or is it Rita and Glenn? What is it? I look forward to meeting you guys and talking a little bit about football and a lot about life. And if you happen to miss the show, you can now catch a replay Friday nights on 105.7 The Fan. Get all of your details for The Tyus Bowser Show right now at PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, September 20th at Skipjack's Crab Deck in Middle River. It's brought to you by the all-new Ginsu Grill and Maryland Vascular Specialists.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
I'm Griffin Bass, and I have the extraordinary, mind-blowing, and life-affirming pleasure of being the new producer for the absolute funniest, smartest, and most handsome sports host in all of Baltimore. Wait a second, Glenn, I'm working for you, not Jeremy Kahn. If you're not listening to Glenn Clark Radio, here's what you're missing.
He's Coach Kevin Willard.
Glenn, thanks for having me.
Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, Rashad Bateman.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
He is outfielder Cedric Mullins.
Thank you guys for having me.
Trey Mancini.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Mr. Marcus Williams, who's now with us.
Man, appreciate it. Happy to be on.
Ravens kicker Justin Tucker.
Thanks for having me.
Adley Rutschman.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
John Angelos.
Thanks a lot. Good to be with you.
Ryan Mountcastle.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Marlon Humphrey.
Thank you.
Talia Tungavailoa.
Thank you guys for having me.
He is J.K. Dobbins.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
The great Ray Lewis.
Always good to be on.
He is Mr. Cal Ripken Jr.
Good chatting with you.
Watch Glenn Clark Radio at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio or anytime on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or anywhere you get your podcasts.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn, over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
All right, welcome back to the Bat Around. Just want to remind you that the Bat Around is brought to you today by the Live Casino and Hotel. Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook and Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Joining us now from The Athletic, he is Dan Connolly. We've been trying to get Dan on the show for quite a while now, so we're very happy to have him back on the Bat Around. Dan, it's Paul, it's Zach. Good morning. Thanks for taking some time for us today.
Absolutely, guys. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Dan, let's get right into this. Orioles, they win a ball game last night 3-2. They collect 5 hits, but all 5 hits came from Gunnar Henderson and Cedric Mullins. Offense has been struggling mightily recently. What do you think is the main culprit for that? Are these guys kind of tiring it out down the stretch, or are they just hitting an unfortunate bump in the road at the wrong time?
Well, honestly, they haven't been particularly good all year.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's been, a couple of the guys have had moments or had spurts. Obviously, Santander has had some spurts. Hayes had spurts early. Mullins goes up and down. Rutschman's been pretty consistent, specifically with his eye and walking, high on base percentage, although his average isn't particularly high. They really just have not clicked all season, and it's hard to pinpoint why. I've talked to several of the offensive players about this, and they feel like it's still in them. Like they are better than what they've showed as a collective group, and that they can tick it up. But we're in September now, and maybe this just is what they are. They have been pretty good as far as getting clutch hits late in games when they have to, but they still left a lot of men in scoring position. And like you said last night, I mean, they were completely perplexed by Bellows' changeup going with his fastball. That combination kept them off. I mean, only Cedric Mullins got hits against them in 5+ innings.
Right. Now, with guys like Gunnar Henderson and Kyle Stowers now on the roster, Austin Hayes hasn't hit since the end of June, Dan. Let's be frank here. And
Right.
Rougned Odor, as much as he has good vibes and turns a good double play, he's batting .200. At what point should Brandon Hyde be able to go to these guys and say, hey, this isn't personal, but we need to put somebody else in here. I just feel like Hayes and Odor are playing every day in a playoff race, and at this point they've become automatic outs.
Well, I mean, let's start with Hayes. First of all, and I think Stowers could be a good defensive player. Obviously, McKenna's a good defensive player. But you take Austin Hayes out of that lineup, and you're taking away a center fielder who's really understood that left field. That is a really important part of this team is the defense that it puts together. And taking Hayes out of that, does hurt you some, defensively. Now, obviously, like I said, Stowers we want to see more of. McKenna obviously can play left field. But how much of an upgrade, A, is McKenna offensively?
Right.
And B, how much of an upgrade is Stowers? I mean, people, I think, have put Stowers in the same wave as Henderson and Rutschman because he's new and he's fresh and whatever. But, he strikes out a ton. He has in the minors. He is so far in the majors. Most of his hits have been singles, guys. I mean, let's face it. He had that huge dramatic home run. I don't think he's had an extra base hit since. So, you're talking about an upgrade. Listen, Hayes has looked terrible. He has looked completely lost. And I don't know what it is. Obviously, confidence is playing into it. He says he's healthy, but he's looked bad. And should he be an everyday guy right now? I don't know. But I don't think you take him out of the lineup for good either, because I think the upside of him right now in 2022 is better than the upside of the other guys you would replace him with, especially when you throw defensive in there. For me personally, my arrangement for the Orioles, my lineup for the Orioles, most days, 5 of 7 days, if you will, would be Henderson at third base, Urias at second base, and Mateo at short. I don't see any real reason why you go away from that on a consistent basis. I don't want to see Henderson at second at this point. I don't think it's fair for a kid who's this young, who's trying to learn the game at this speed, at this level, to put him in a position he's unfamiliar with. I think you put him at third base and let it go. Maybe you lose a little bit defensively, not having Urias at third, but I think you gain that in second versus the unfamiliarity that Gunnar Henderson has at second base. I think that people have because the season has gone so well, I think people have focused on Rougned Odor as the problem. And people want him out of there, and it's become a big fan thing that why is Odor playing so much? Odor turns a double play better than anybody I've seen in the last maybe 8 or 10 years at second base. The Orioles are based on their defense. It's predicated their pitching is on their defense and turning those double plays, and he has been extraordinary at that. He and Mateo do it well, but he's pretty much can turn it with almost anybody that's at shortstop, and he's had several different partners there. He also, because of the shift the way it is, he also has saved several singles, turned them into outs based on his arm on how deep he plays out in the outfield. You're not going to see a lot of defensive metrics that boast him as a good defensive second baseman. Part of that's because, the double play thing is not qualified in such. Turning a double play versus not turning a double play, or, because those become force outs. Those aren't errors or anything of that nature. So to me, he actually has a purpose on that team several times a week. Does he have to play 5, 6, 7 times? I'm not so sure on that, but I think people dismiss him by looking at his batting average, and they want the best next thing. People have still talking to me about why isn't Terrin Vavra playing more? Well, he's won for his last 22 with 10 strikeouts. I mean, right. But he's not Odor, so people want him in there. So I think you got to be kind of careful on let's dismiss these guys, these veterans who played here, because we have other options. When in September, you really don't know what those options are. I mean, people would have been clamoring for Henderson at second base until they saw how unfamiliar he was with it. And now that has gone off. Now it's a push for third base or push for DH or whatever. I think Henderson at this point, you put him in to see how long he can keep this up offensively before they adjust to him. But I don't think it's a slam dunk to get rid of an Odor or a Hayes for somebody else when you really don't have somebody else that you're that confident in.
Right, and I'm not saying you never play him again, but maybe not 5 to 7 days a week. Maybe you have the infield lineup, like you said, of Urias at second, Mateo at short, and Henderson at third 5 days a week, and then Odor gets mixed in there. There's ways to do it, but I agree, defensively, those guys help you more than the guys that you have otherwise. Now, with how bad...
I just don't think you want to... I don't think you want to overexpose Henderson necessarily either.
Sure.
I think that, that sometimes putting him at DH makes a lot of sense, just to kind of take that pressure off of him a little bit. I mean, I I am waiting. He has impressed me so far, but I am waiting for a situation where the league adjusts him a little bit because he is such a young hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it. We've seen it all the way across the board. We saw with Bobby Witt, who's the same age, that happened with him. Listen, this kid's unbelievably talented, and I think he's going to be a very, very good player for a long time. But guys go through streaks, and at times, right now, Henderson looks like a viable member of this lineup, and I think he should be. But again, it's really a balancing act, and the kid's never played deep in September because he's never had to.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think that it's inevitable that the other shoe kind of drops on him right now, and he's gotten off to such a good start. But the league will adjust to him. Like you said, you've seen it everywhere. It's likely to happen to him too. But we'll take the good feelings while we can get them, Dan.
Absolutely.
Now the Orioles, they have an influx of talent coming through their system at seemingly every position. You have Henderson, Mateo, Arias, Westberg, Ortiz, Connor Norby, Cesar Prieto, Kobe Mayo, and Jackson Holiday in the infield. They can't all play in the infield. Mullins, Hayes, Santander, Stowers, Kaiser, Kerstad. The list goes on in the outfield. And a lot of these guys, Dan, are knocking on the door without a position to play because there's only so many. Do you think that the Orioles this offseason are going to start trading from this crop of young talent to supplement the big league roster?
I would think they'd be more likely to trade from the veterans on this roster than they would the young talent, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Anthony Santander's days are probably numbered with the Orioles, despite how well he has played, because he's making money, because he's getting a little bit older. Not old, mind you, but he has 2 more years before free agency.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that would be more likely a trade of a guy like him. I don't know. I think they really do like Mateo at shortstop, but I would think that would be more likely than really trading the prospects now. You say they're knocking on the door, but again, there are warts on pretty much everybody you name.
Sure.
And there's a big difference between having some success at AA and AAA and having some success in the majors. And I feel like, you want to give these guys an opportunity, but you also want to make sure, especially where they are now, you win. And so I'm not sure, fans are all super excited about guys like an Ortiz or a Westberg or you mentioned Herstad. But, really, the question is what value do they have until they start showing it on the major league level. And
Sure.
I think that there are, I think you got to really kind of balance the hype with the reality. And so I think that the strength that the Orioles have at this moment is that they have some outfielders coming up that you will at least try, and you have a guy who has got to be pretty valuable right now in Anthony Santander. And so to me, if you're going to make that move, it would make more sense to do it that way than to trade some of these young prospects until you know which young prospects are going to work and which ones aren't.
Sure. And look, Dan, we have maybe the most active offseason coming up in quite a while here in Baltimore. I think it's very evident that the Orioles are probably going to try to add some pitching. It also looks evident that they at least need to add a middle of the order bat to this lineup. Do you see them dipping their toes in the deep end of the pool to try and get one of those big bats that's going to be a free agent? Do you see them acquiring a bat via free agency? Basically, what I'm asking you in a nutshell is, what is this offseason going to look like for the Orioles?
Well, I think the priority has to be pitching, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they have to go out and get themselves a legitimate towards the top of the rotation, if not a top of the rotation guy. I think that balances things so well. Maybe even get 2 starting pitchers who have experience and have some type of pedigree. That, to me, is bigger than anything else. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they could absolutely use the bat in the middle of the lineup. I do think it's imperative for them to try real hard to do that this year, this all season. It obviously, the timetable jumped up a year, at least a year, based on how they played this year and based on how some of their young players have had and some of those surprising guys in both rotation and in the bullpen. But I think they're fooling themselves if they think that this team is the team to unseat the Yankees and the Astros and the Blue Jays and whomever. It has to get better. Mike Elias has said that he will have the funds when his team is ready to get better.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we all believe that it's ready to get better now.
Yeah.
So I do think it's a huge offseason. I do think Mike is going to not only just dip the toe, I think he's diving into it this year if he has the financial backing behind him. I still don't think that they get a top guy necessarily, because I still think there are some things we know about the Wall. We know it's played more of a hitter's park, but some of these teams are going to give either outrageous amount of money or they're a better place to play for a pitcher still, or at least that's the perception, like the NL West, because you can move the fences back, but you can't move the Yankees and the Blue Jays and the Red Sox out of your division either. So I think there are some better places to pitch, even with the Wall. So I think it's going to take either a lot of money or the Orioles might have to second tier it. But the second tier is not bad. And I mean, I think that they have to go out and get like a better Jordan Lyles.
Yeah.
That to me is imperative. And then, and maybe another Jordan Lyles or Jordan Lyles again, and, fill out from there. But I think for this team to be much better, I think you get two starting pitchers, you get a bat somewhere, and you pay some money, and then you hope that there's competition for that rotation and some good players, some guys who have pitched well, start at AAA and are ready to come up.
Dan, I'm putting all my eggs in the Aaron Judge basket for this offseason. I'm putting all my eggs in that basket.
Well, I'm afraid you might have an empty basket by the end of the year, because I don't see that one happen.
It is such a pipe dream, but I feel like if they're going to add a bat, that's the one guy that Mount Baltimore out there can't hold down. So that's at the top of my wish list. Now, just another minute or two here with Dan Connolly from The Athletic, and thank you again for taking some time for us. We saw Tyler Wells start on Wednesday with Kramer in relief. I understand why as having the best, as you want to have the best pitchers in your system on your roster if they're ready to be there. But why would they not do it the other way around, especially with the way Kramer's been pitching recently and the fact that the last time he faced the Blue Jays and Alek Manoah, he went 7 innings of 2-run ball?
Well, honestly, I don't have a problem with having Wells start and somebody else coming behind him.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a problem with that being Kramer.
Me too.
I do think they're smart in that. Listen, Tyler Wells has not pitched in relief all year, okay?
Right.
And they want him to be a starter, and he is coming off of injury. And it is a difference. We're not playing fantasy baseball here. It is a difference in the mindset of a guy starting versus relief. And if he's starting all season, then, you don't want to put him into an unfamiliar territory and try to build him up that way, because he prepares for that every fifth day. He prepares, he gets his whole routine set and everything else. So I have no problem with them starting and having Tyler Wells go a couple innings if they indeed feel that he's better than what they have, some other members of the rotation.
Sure.
That said, again, pitchers are very routine based. They, especially starters, they like to know every fifth or sixth day when they're pitching, who they're pitching against, all of that. That routine is exceptionally important. And I don't like the fact that Kramer, who had been really cruising this last month or so,
mm-hmm.
that they would not have him start that game. And I wonder about the mentality of it. I mean, I wonder what that says to a guy who has had success and who has had a lot of failure as well, to say, hey, we're putting this other guy in your spot. Kramer has told us it didn't matter to him at all, and he basically dismissed the line of questioning very quickly.
Sure.
But you do wonder if that affects guys and affects the mentality of it. And to me, I would have swapped it and had Austin Voth be that guy who comes in the third inning instead of Dean Kramer, because I, at this point, think Kramer could be a part of the future for sure, and at least an attempt to be part of the future. And I don't like messing with that at all.
Dan, is that a Brandon Hyde thing or a Mike Elias thing or a collaborative thing between the two of them, the decision to do that on Wednesday?
Well, I believe it's collaborative in that they made the decision. They told the guys that together. Now, whether that comes more from the analytics side of it probably does, because a lot of these things are made analytically. So my guess is it was Brandon on board with Mike's decision. I don't know that for sure, but I do know that they both would call it collaborative. But I'm not inside there to know exactly which way that's leaning. But they would call it collaborative, and they both were in. I know for sure, because I was there, outside in the clubhouse, that they both were in the meeting with Kramer.
Gotcha. All right, and then finally, and I know we got to get you out of here, so one quick question. Grayson Rodriguez, he's throwing his third rehab outing on Sunday. Do we see him in Baltimore this year?
I think we do, simply because there's no, unlike some of these other guys like Henderson, he has to be put onto the 40-man roster in the offseason anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So if they deem him to be ready I would imagine that we see him now simply to give him a little bit of taste before going into next year. And because he has to be added to the 40-man roster anyway, it's not like you're losing that. You have to protect him from the Rule 5 draft this year based on the rules. So I would say yes. I think it could be a situation where if they're out of the race, he ends up getting a start, or maybe even two. It all depends on what his progression is. But I would say I would lean towards yes more so than no as far as seeing him in Baltimore this year.
And if the Orioles somehow squeak into the playoffs, do you imagine that they would find a loophole to get him onto the roster?
It's not really a loophole. I mean, it's set up in a thing. John Means was part of the 40-man roster. So was Ellis, and they can replace those guys with people that were in the 40-man roster. So it's not really a loophole as long as they were in the organization prior to August 31st. It's just part of the rules. So I would think, if they feel like he's ready and he is ready to go, yeah, there's a possibility he could be on the playoff roster.
Gotcha. Dan, thank you so much for taking some time for us. We certainly appreciate it. We will talk to you down the line. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You got it. Take care.
All right, see you. Dan Connolly from The Athletic joining us. Always a great segment with Dan. He's got more inside knowledge about the Orioles than just about anybody else covering the team. So really appreciative of him coming on the program. We got to catch our second break. Want to remind you today's show is brought to you by the Toyota Tacoma, which comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. This is the Bat Around.
See Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Academy, October 13th through 16th in Cecil County. Don't miss the breathtaking excitement of the dynamic cross-country competition or the elegance of dressage and precision of show jumping. There's also great shopping and activities, including a fresh food fest, corgi race, and a beer, wine, and spirits showcase. So come enjoy a beautiful fall day at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th through 16th. Learn more and buy tickets at maryland5star.us.
This is the sound of 70,000 Ravens fans cheering a win. And this is the sound of Diane Heil of Annapolis cheering her own Ravens win.
Woohoo! Seats for 20 years!
Last year, Diane played Maryland Lottery Raven Scratch-Offs and won Raven season tickets for 20 years. Look for Raven Scratch-Offs at any Maryland Lottery retailer. You could win up to $100,000 or great Ravens prizes. Take it from Diane.
It's surreal and it's exciting and I literally can't wait.
Please play responsibly.
Have you been to Guilford Hall Brewery? Located in Baltimore's Station North neighborhood, Guilford Hall Brewery breaks the craft brew mold with their great handcrafted microbrews and amazing Bavarian-style food selections. Join Guilford Hall 7 days a week for Orioles, Ravens, and all of your favorite college games. Make plans now to watch the big games, play trivia, or bring your dog for Yappy Hour. They even have free valet service on Friday and Saturday nights. Go to guilfordhall.com for a complete schedule of events, beer listings, and food and drink specials. We'll see you at Guilford Hall Brewery.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook Assistant GM Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and offer you a few winners. And every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports' Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday, brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline. All right, welcome back to the Bat Around. Today's show brought to you by, where did I put that? Today's show brought to you by the Maryland 5-Star. You can see Olympic athletes in action at the nation's best. As the nation's best, horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th to 16th in Cecil County. So get out there if you have the opportunity on that weekend. And now it is time for the payoff pitch around the league. Cedric Mullins and Gunnar Henderson combined for all 5 of the Orioles' hits, with Henderson delivering the biggest blow, a 2-run single and a 3-run 6th inning that gave the O's the lead for good in a 3-2 victory over the Red Sox. Bo Bichette homer, tripled and drove in 3, but it was Danny Jansen RBI single in the top of the 9th to put Toronto over the top as they defeated Texas 4-3. Wander Franco returned to the lineup for the first time in exactly 2 months, collecting 3 hits and 2 RBIs, as did Randy Arozarena to lead the Rays past the Yankees 4-2. Drew Rasmussen struck out 10 over 6 shutout innings to pick up the victory. Robbie Grossman collected 3 hits and 2 RBIs, and the Red Hot Braves hit 4 home runs to call off the equally hot Seattle Mariners 6-4, despite a 2-homer game from Carlos Santana. Oscar Gonzalez homered twice and drove in 5, and the Guardians withstood a late rally by the Twins to hold on to a 7-6 victory to drop Minnesota 2.5 games back in the division. Down to 2 outs remaining in the game, the White Sox scored 5 runs in the 9th inning, 4 with 2 outs, to overtake the pitiful Athletics 5-3 and keep pace in the AL Central. Eloy Jimenez homered in the victory. Chas McCormick homered and drove in 3 to back Lance McCullers 7 innings, a 2-run ball, and an Astros 4-3 victory over the Angels. Mike Trout hit his 33rd homer in the loss. I feel like we say that a lot. Mike Trout homered in the loss. Eric Haas homered twice and drove in 3, and Yammer Candelario added a home run and 3 RBIs of his own in a Tigers 10-2 shelling of the Royals. I had so many typos in that one. How did I miss that? JT Realmuto collected 3 hits and 2 ribeye steaks, including a 16th home run as the Phillies handled business against the Nationals 5-3. Garrett Cooper homered amongst his 3 hits, driving in 2 in the process to lead the Marlins to victory over the suddenly reeling Mets 6-3. Pete Alonso homered in the loss. Nico Horner and Yan Gomes each hit 2-run homers to provide all the scoring for the Cubs in a 4-3 win over the Giants. Carlos Rodon was the hard luck loser, striking out 11 in 5 1/3 innings of 2-run ball. O'Neal Cruz doubled, tripled, and drove in 3 to pace an 8-run outburst from the Pirates, who took down the first-place Cardinals 8-2. In a crazy game that saw the D-backs answer a 5-run 3rd inning by the Rockies with a 9-run 4th inning that saw Major League Baseball's longest home run of the season fly 504 feet off the bat of C.J. Cron, and it saw Dalton Varsho mash a grand slam. Elias Diaz stole the show with 7 RBIs off of 4 hits and 2 home runs, the last of which being a walk-off 3-run bomb and a wild Rockies 13-10 victory over Arizona. 7 Reds produced multi-hit games, including Jonathan India, who homered and tripled to drive in 2 in a Cincy 8-2 win over the spiraling Brewers. And finally, Manny Machado went 3 for 3, and Trent Grisham hit a 3-run homer, but it took a Jake Cronenworth RBI single in the bottom of the 10th to hold down the Dodgers as the Padres walked it off 5-4. And now Zach will tell us what's on tap for Major League Baseball this Saturday.
All right, guys, got a lot of games on the schedule. 1 o'clock at Yankee Stadium. Corey Kluber takes on Jamison Taillon, the Rays, and the Yankees. Giants, they start Logan Webb against the Cubs and Marcus Stroman. 2:20 at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Again, another game in the Oakland Coliseum. A's and White Sox. Lance Lynn versus Adrian Martinez. Matt Manning takes the mound for the Tigers against Jonathan Heasley and the Kansas City Royals. 4:10 at Kauffman Stadium. The Red Sox, they'll take on the Baltimore Orioles. Oriole Park at Camden Yards. 5:05. An interesting start time tonight. Michael Wacha and Jordan Lyles as they'll go to head-to-head. Nationals and Phillies. Eric Fedde, Ranger Suarez, the righty versus the lefty. 6:05 at Citizens Bank Park. Mets and the Marlins, another inter-division matchup. Carlos Carrasco versus Pablo Lopez. 6:10 at Lone Depot Park. Blue Jays and Rangers. Kevin Gausman versus Kohei Arihara. 7:05 at Globe Life Field. Angels and Astros, Shohei Ohtani versus Jose Urquidy. Really good pitching matchup there. 7:15 at Minute Maid Park. The Guardians will start Tristan McKenzie, who's been on a really hot streak as of late, against Chris Archer and the Twins. 7:15 at Target Field. Chase Anderson, he'll start for the Reds. Adrian Hauser for the Brewers as they go head-to-head. 7:15 at American Family Field. Cardinals and the Pirates. Jack Flaherty versus JT Brubaker. 7:35 at PNC Park. D-backs and the Rockies, they'll start the veteran Madison Bumgarner against Jose Urena. 8:10 at Coors Field. Dodgers and Padres, really good matchup there to watch. Julio Urias and Blake Snell, the two lefties, arguably the aces of their staffs. 8:40 at Petco Park. I guess Blake Snell not so much, but having a really good year. And the final game of the night, we have the Braves and the Mariners. Max Fried, who's having another excellent year. He's 13-5 against George Kirby, the rookie. 9:10 at T-Mobile Park. That's the Braves and the Mariners.
It sounded like you said Koji Uehara was going up against the Blue Jays tonight for the Rangers.
He has a really tough name to pronounce. It's Kohei Arihara.
Kohei Arihara.
I believe that's how you say it. Arihara. Sounds about right.
Koji Uehara did pitch for the Rangers. He was part of that trade that got us Chris Davis.
He was, yeah, and not the same guy. I actually don't know who this guy is, but he has a 5.29 ERA, so I guess I shouldn't. But
so I guess I should.
He's not great apparently, but he's not
that guy.
He's not the best.
Anyway, the payoff pitch around the league was brought to you today by Guilford Hall Brewery. Have you been to Guilford Hall Brewery? It's located in Baltimore Station North. Let me try that again. It's located in Baltimore Station North neighborhood, and it breaks the craft brew mold with the oh my God. I've never seen this read, and as host of the show, it's my job to read over new reads and make sure that I get them right. Mm-hmm. The way this is worded is so weird to me. Let me start over. Have you been to Guilford Hall Brewery? Located in Baltimore Station North neighborhood, Guilford Hall Brewery breaks the craft brew mold with the great handcrafted microbrews and amazing Bavarian-style food selections. Join Guilford Hall 7 days a week for Orioles, Ravens, and all of your favorite college games. Make plans now to watch the big games, play trivia, or bring your dog for Yappy Hour. Oh. They even have free valet service on Friday and Saturday nights. Go to guilfordhall.com for a complete schedule of events, beer listings, and food and drink specials. That's Guilford Hall Brewery, 1611 Guilford Avenue in Station North.
You're going to bring Bruce to Yappy Hour?
Yeah, you know what? I might.
You might have to.
He's not much of a yapper unless he's in his crate.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he just barks until you let him out.
Gotcha.
That's not true. He goes in the crate and he stays quiet, and then in the morning at about 6:45, he starts barking. You take him out. If you want to go back to sleep, good luck, because as soon as you put him back in the crate, he's like, I know you're home, and it's time for breakfast. Let me the hell out. Anyway, Bruce is awesome. He's the best dog.
Good dog.
He's a good freaking dog.
Looking forward to meeting him.
I almost dropped an F-bomb twice in the intro, and then Stan almost dropped an F-bomb.
Yeah.
I think he half-dropped one. And then I almost said he's a good effing dog.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on today. It's just F everything.
It's a cursing kind of day.
Anyway, Orioles banter today brought to you by, so many reads today, brought to you by the next Tyus Bowser Show, which is Tuesday, September 20th at Skip Jackson Middle River. Tyus and a special guest will join Rita and Glenn. This is your opportunity to meet Baltimore football stars while getting the inside scoop on the purple and black. So we'll see you at Skip Jackson Middle River for the Tyus Bowser Show on September 20th. The Tyus Bowser Show is a partnership of Press Box and Great 8's memorabilia and brought to you by Maryland Vascular Specialists and the all-new Yin-Su Grill. And if you happen to miss the Tyus Bowser Show, you can check it out Friday nights throughout the season on 105.7 The Fan.
Well said.
Thank you. Orioles banter. We didn't talk too much about it with Stan because defensive metrics are, I'm 38 on Tuesday, and they're a little much for me. Stan's 70. So this is probably... and They get your head spinning with all the sabermetrics that are out there. But I do want to talk about the Orioles defense because Ramon Arias. Let me just read you off some of these defensive numbers. He leads all AL third basemen with 14 defensive runs saved. He's second in ultimate zone rating, UZR, only to Jose Ramirez, but Jose Ramirez only has 1 defensive run saved. And Arias is tied for first with 6 outs above average. This is a guy beginning of the year couldn't make the throw over the first base consistently from third base, And now he's arguably the best defensive third baseman in the American League.
Yeah.
Have you noticed this? I noticed that he was playing a good third base. Ryan Blake, these stats are courtesy of Ryan Blake, by the way. He gave these to me when we were doing our Give That Fan a podcast the other day. Ryan Blake brought this to my attention, just how damn good he's been. Had you noticed this?
I don't know if it's something that sticks out to me that often. I think he's one of those guys that is going to make those routine plays over and over. And it's almost one of those things where when you do it so often and he makes so many of those routine plays, you start to notice it a lot less. I don't think he's as flashy as a guy like Manny Machado. I'm not sure
absolutely.
he'll ever be.
He's made some stellar plays.
He has made some stellar plays, but I think it's just the consistency of what he's able to do is really what has stuck out to me. It's not so much like, wow, that was an incredible play, what a backhand, what a dive, whatever. It's more of just the fact that he's been able to do it and make basically almost every play for the most part and just keep doing it routinely and keep making it a consistent thing. And I think that's what stood out to me more than, one play or another. But it's certainly, we doubted it. We both, were on the record saying at the beginning of the year, I don't know if Ramon Urias has the arm strength to play for a third base because he had been a second baseman throughout the large part of his minor league career with the Cardinals. And it's definitely a huge change when you move from second to third.
I watched him on opening day when they were doing their infield warm-ups while the pitcher was warming up in the first inning.
Yeah.
I watched him bounce 2 throws to first base, and then I watched him do it in the first inning on a ground ball. I was like, his arms. This is a second baseman. He should be playing second. It just made my ire towards Odor that much more because I didn't want him when he was signed, and I don't mean to keep bringing him up. I'm sorry.
Well, I think it's great to see a guy make that transition.
Yeah,
because it is a different throw, and when you get consistent playing time at one position, and that's why that's so important for so many guys. And they always say that, man, I love being in just one spot because that throw gets kind of calibrated into your arm. You know that throw. I mean, generally it's going to be from about the same distance. Not always. I mean, if you're charging a ground ball, whatever, but you're generally making the same throw over and over. And guys, as they go on, and it's obviously September now, we're at the end of the year, he's so calibrated to make that throw, and that's that transition from second to third that's been so important for him.
And the throws are always strong now.
They are.
They're always strong. And it's funny that Ryan brought up his defensive metrics to me on Thursday when we recorded our most recent episode, or episode 20 of Give That Fan a Podcast.
Yeah.
It's funny that he brought that up to me because I was at the game on Wednesday night, and Laura and I had really nice seats behind home plate. And in the second inning, there was a scorching ground ball hit into the hole that he made a diving play on and got the out at second base. And then later in the game, there was a scorching one-hopper that came. It hit the ground, and it was like it skipped.
Yeah.
It was like it hit a rock and went straight at his face. And he got the glove up. Like the reaction time was so fast.
Right.
And I thought, man, he is really good over there.
He's really made that transition well. And it's been, I think one of the more important things for the Orioles going forward is being able to have guys who are versatile, yes, but also are playing the same position most every night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want to be moving guys around too often. I think Jorge Mateo has really benefited from that at shortstop, and Ramon at third. And Ramon will play, every once in a while, play shortstop or second base. It's not too often these days, but I just think having a guy cemented is, you can write him into the lineup every night as your third baseman. Not only gives him confidence, but it makes you confident as a manager and as a fan and whoever it is, because that guy's making that transition. He's so calibrated to make the plays from third base. Now,
over at first base, Ryan Mountcastle is one of, if not the best defensive first baseman in the American League, which is probably the most shocking thing that I've seen out of all of this. He's tied for second in defensive runs saved at first base, and he leads AL first baseman in outs above average and ultimate zone rating.
Yeah,
this is a guy we didn't have a position, and we were saying, should Trey Mancini be playing first base? They tried to play. He got drafted as a shortstop, moved over to third base, moved over to first base, and then moved off of first base into left field.
Right.
And now he's a Gold Glove caliber first baseman.
Yeah.
How much of this goes to his athletic ability, and how much? I mean, obviously you need to have the ability to do these things, but how much of this goes? The credit goes to Tony Mansolino, who's their new infield coordinator, who has been working with all these guys.
I think the biggest thing with Ryan Mountcastle, when he came up originally in 2020, we knew about the power. We knew about the bat. That was what he came up for, and that's what everyone wanted him for. But when he came up, one of the things I noticed was the athleticism. There's a lot of it. And he's a bigger guy. He's certainly not one of the smaller guys on the team. And the way he runs, the way he moves, all surprised me back then. And then you see the way he plays at first base and the physical capability he has to stretch out to the ball. And even on ground balls, he's been excellent with range. He can jump up and grab a few. He's been catching pop-ups pretty much every time. The guy is a really, really good athlete. I think that's what's really underrated about him. And he was a shortstop coming out of high school, so I guess I would expect that. But the athleticism is what allows him to make all these plays and allows him to be as good of a first baseman as he is. And sure, the coaching staff has done an incredible job. I think we see it in the pitching. We talk about Chris Holt so often, but it probably flies under the radar with the outfield and infield coaches, how well they've trained these guys, because the defense has been pretty impeccable this year, especially compared to the last 5 years of Orioles baseball.
Yeah, make no mistake about it. The wall in left field has helped with the pitching. There's been a number of fly balls that would have been home runs in the past.
Doubt.
Maybe the Orioles probably are not as good if that wall isn't moved back. But the infield defense has been so far and away better this year than it's been since the Orioles were a competitive team.
Yeah.
And that has as much to do with the pitching turnaround as anything else. The fact that you can have that your defense up the middle with Rutschman behind the plate, Mateo at short, and Mullins in center, that gives you exactly what you want. That straight up the middle defense, and then Ramon at the hot corner, and Mountcastle over at first base. You are really staunch defensively.
And the good news is there's more of that coming. Colton Cowser is an excellent defender, and you look at a lot of guys in the minors, because Mike Elias is drafted up the middle. That's kind of one of the things he's prioritized, the shortstops, the second basemen, the center fielders. When he drafts outfielders, it's generally not been the guys who are unathletic. Look at Dylan Beavers or Judd Fabian. Look at Reed Trimble, John Rhodes. All of these guys are basically center fielders. They can all play center field. So maybe with the exception of Heston Kjerstad, but that was because his bat was unreal.
Well, but they said that he's a good right fielder.
Yeah, fair enough. And Joey Ortiz is another guy who's an up-the-middle guy, excellent defender.
Defensively, he's Major League ready.
Right, and he's drafted so many of these guys that are up-the-middle defenders that it's almost going to be perfect for the Orioles, and the fact that these guys are just going to keep coming, keep filtering in. This up-the-middle defense is going to stay productive.
So my back has been itching, and I've been trying to find a way to scratch it. So it's got. He's
got a water bottle on his back right now.
It's got to be the water bottle.
Okay.
Anyway, so now the next question becomes, what's your defensive alignment in the infield next year?
Yeah.
Gunner's not playing second base. He might play it in a pinch, but I think that it's been proven that he's not really a second baseman. Now maybe they say, hey, we want you to go and play second base, work on your second base defense all off season. But especially with how good Arias is over there, are you now moving Arias back to second base next year and playing Gunnar at third base? Are you trading Arias and bringing up one of those prospects, maybe Joey Ortiz or Westberg or any number of those guys? What are you doing defensively and with your lineup next year regarding the infield?
Well, I think when you look at Arias, it starts to become pretty clear that his value might peak soon, because he right now is the number 2 leader in WAR on this team, right behind Adley Rutschman. He's now climbed into that number 2 spot, ahead of Jorge Mateo and Cedric Mullins, which are the guys that are 3 and 4. And I think that just goes to show how productive he's been. And Mike Elias might look at that this offseason and say, hey, is he really going to be a 4-WAR player next year as well? And he might say that might have been the peak of Ramon Arias' value. Let's trade him now, sell high on him, and get what we can. I think that's a really big possibility for Ramon Arias, and especially because they almost have to open up an infield spot at some point, because you just do have so many guys coming up. And, of course, those guys are unproven, whereas Ramon is, and Ramon's cheap, and he's controllable, which teams love. But Gunnar Henderson, probably not a second baseman. He's on the left side of the infield somewhere. So I think they do need to make a move to open that up for him.
Okay, with that in mind, you want to look at, because I honestly believe that Gunnar Henderson is either a future 1 or 3 hitter on this team. Maybe
one hitter, okay.
Maybe as early as next year, because he gets on base so much.
See, I think 2 or 3 is perfect
fast.
for him.
I think that Rutschman's going to end up being your 2 hitter.
I think Rutschman almost has to be 2, but 3 makes a lot of sense for Gunnar.
3 makes a lot of sense for Gunnar. 1 makes a lot of sense for Gunnar, especially if you don't have Mullins anymore if he gets traded.
See, I look at Colton Cowser, though, as a number one kind of guy. I mean, Colton Cowser is going to be right there. Gunnar could even be a 4.
Yeah, but I'm talking about to start next year.
Okay.
Because Cowser's going to spend the bulk of the year next year in AAA. It's up to him to get here, but he's off to a slow start at Norfolk since he got promoted. Now, look, Bowie clearly was no match for him.
No.
He gets, and this is his first full year of pro ball. His first full year, and he's already at AAA. So that's impressive in and of itself. I have no doubts that he'll come out next year red hot and make his way to the major leagues before too long. To start the year next year, though, I'm not sure that Cedric Mullins is still here next year.
Right.
He could be part of a package to bring in somebody maybe like a Pablo Lopez, right? I'm not sure that Hayes is still here next year. So I look at this Orioles lineup, and they desperately need a middle-of-the-order bat.
Yeah.
Desperately.
They
do. Desperately do. And I'm not talking – Ryan Mountcastle has a lot of power.
He does.
And if Ryan Mountcastle is even a league average hitter in July and August, he's probably pushing 30, 35 homers and close to 100 RBIs this year.
Yeah.
Right now, he's got just about 80 RBIs and 21 homers, and he basically took July and August off.
Yeah.
Right? But I think he profiles more as a 5 or a 6 hitter.
Yeah.
Santander as a 3 hitter is fine. Dan Connolly is almost certain he's getting traded. But I was certain he was getting traded by the deadline, and he's still here.
Right.
Switch hitter with power that's going to finish the year at about 260, 30 bombs, 100 ribeyes.
100 ribeyes.
100 ribeyes. If he's still here next year, that's a good 3 hitter.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd rather see somebody with better on-base capabilities and somebody with higher average capabilities batting third. You look at what's out there on the free agent market, and Stan mentioned a guy like Trey Mancini. Trey Mancini, I love him.
Not going to be back.
Even if it's not even that he's not going to be back. If you were to bring him back, it makes your team worse.
I agree.
I think.
I agree.
I think that we've seen peak Trey Mancini.
It's run its course.
And as much as we love him, as much as he means to us in the community, Trey with a shorter left field wall, he's hitting like 200 for the Astros. You know, the power is not there. I don't want a guy like that. I want and Dan said he thinks that Mike Elias isn't just dipping his toe in the deep end. He thinks he's diving headfirst into the deep end of the free agent market this year. If you're going to go out and get a starting pitcher, fine. You can never have too much pitching. Maybe starting a starting pitcher is number one priority.
Yeah.
For me, 1A is that middle of the order bat.
I agree.
And I've been talking about Judge, and we've talked about Correa, we've talked about Trey Turner. Xander Bogaerts never came to mind for me because
I doubt he's going to go in division.
He's not a middle of the order bat. He's a 2 hitter.
I would argue Correa isn't either.
Right. So for me, I want that guy that strikes fear into an opposing pitcher.
Yeah.
And who are those guys in the league?
Well,
you have Ohtani, you have Trout, you have Judge, you have Pete Alonso. If Freddie Freeman, I think you can probably put on that list.
Mookie
Betts. They need a guy like that for the middle of their order. Now,
well, I think they hope that can be Gunnar Henderson.
Right. But Gunnar Henderson's not enough.
Right.
You need somebody Gunnar Henderson starting next year probably takes a Manny Machado route.
Yeah.
Right? Where he's a really good defender, he's a really good hitter, the power's not quite there yet.
Right.
And he hits 40 to 50 doubles.
Yeah.
And then in 2024, he becomes that big 30 homer, 30 steal guy.
Yeah.
Right? For next year, I feel like you have to go in the season with a guy who's intimidating in the middle of your order. Now, do you think that they're likely to do that through free agency, or would it be more of a trade situation?
It's one of those things where it's a lot easier said than done. And getting the right guy for the right price is probably going to be really hard because these middle-of-the-order bats.
I hate right guy, right price.
Okay.
I hate that because if that's the way you're operating, then you're not operating to win. In my opinion,
I guess it's more of a saying for football than it is baseball, given the salary cap. But they're not. Orioles are not going to go over the luxury tax. Let's be completely honest here. They're not going to do that. So maybe that's not the right term. However, I do think Aaron Judge, of course, would be a great fit. I mean, that would be incredible. But I give it like a 0.5% chance, like a 0.5% chance. .05, I should say. Not like anyway. Point is Aaron Judge probably not going to be an Oriole, and there are a lot of guys that are going to be really tough to get, and the Orioles are unfortunately in a situation where I think they'll be outbid for a lot of the guys they try to go for. But even like a Kyle Schwarber would be fine and better, or Nick Castellanos or someone like that. I know they're with the Phillies. It's not going to happen. But the point is, someone like that, getting a true number one superstar is really, really hard. And they'd probably have to trade for it because I don't really think there's a guy in free agency that really fits the bill. Besides, of course, Aaron Judge.
There's plenty. Trey Turner is a guy who
middle of the order bat, though?
Well, Trey Turner, if you're not getting the middle of the order bat, Trey Turner is a guy that's still going to hit over 300. He's going to hit over 20 homers. He's going to steal 30 bases. And he's going to play good defense. So Trey Turner is one of those guys where, okay, so maybe you bat him second and you bat Gunnar third and then Rutschman bats fourth.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And that's how it works out. They need a legitimate bat.
I totally agree.
For the lineup. And see, that's why, and are the Orioles going to be outbid? I don't know that they will be. You have to. We're thinking about the Orioles, and we have no choice but to think of them this way, as the Orioles we've seen from the past, where they haven't made a huge financial commitment to a free agent from outside the organization since 2004.
Yeah,
and well, we want. Said Thrift with the all-time comment. It feels like we're spending. We're operating with Confederate money, right? And then. Dan Duquette saying, well, we want to bring in the guys that are the right fit at the right price for us.
Yeah.
We're probably not going to be in the market for a Shohei Ohtani. That was a pretty damn good Dan Duquette impression. Anyway.
Okay.
It wasn't. it wasn't. But we are under the assumption that that's just how the Orioles operate now. Yeah. And I don't know that that's the case. I think that, and this actually can lead us into this the article about the court filings.
Okay.
Where between the Angelos family and all that, where they basically said that Georgia Angelos, Peter's wife, appointed John the CEO and operating manager of the Baltimore Orioles, and John runs the team where he gives Mike Elias complete autonomy.
Yeah.
Mike Elias the San Francisco Giants made a full court press on him, and he took the job here because the stipulation was he only answers to John, and he has complete autonomy to run the organization the way he sees fit. And we already heard him say we have payroll flexibility.
Yeah.
It's lift off from here. He's excited about what he's going to be able to do this offseason. They've got such a low payroll, even after arbitration heading into next year, that you can sign Aaron Judge for $35 million a year, and you can still sign Carlos Rodon for $24 million a year and still not hit a $100 million payroll.
I agree. That would be an ideal situation if that happened in the offseason. Rodon and Judge would be about as ideal as it gets. I see it as unlikely, but it definitely could happen. I just think the trade market is probably where you want to be right now. I think that makes a little more sense.
I think that's likely. I think that's likely. And I don't mean to mention Judge every week. All right, I know that I mention him a lot on this show, but I think that we need to change our mindset.
Yeah.
Because everything Mike Elias has said he was going to do, he's done, right?
Has.
And he said that when it was time, he was going to add serious talent to the big league roster. And you look at what they did in Houston, bringing in Verlander, bringing in Garrett Cole, bringing in Zach Greinke to add, and maybe that's
Michael Brantley, another one.
Michael Brantley,
so many guys,
right?
Yeah.
You look at what they did there. What's to say Mike Elias doesn't spend the same kind of money here?
That would be ideal.
And our mindset is we are like a beaten dog, where we've been beaten so much that we just expect it. Well, what has Mike Elias done that we ever expected to happen in Baltimore? Everything he's done, we didn't expect.
I guess I'm just one of the people that my mindset is always, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I want to see Mike Elias do it, and then maybe we're talking going into the 24 season that someone just commented, AJ, weekly viewer of ours, he just commented Juan Soto in 2024. If Mike Elias were to go out and spend a ton of money this season, and then I'd have more confidence going into the next offseason, I could see something like that happening. You know what I mean? It's more of he has to prove to me that he's, putting his money where his mouth is.
Yeah, right. I also, okay. he hasn't had the opportunity to prove it. So I guess
he hasn't had the right.
Right. So I guess what you're saying here is you have to do it for me to believe that you're going to do it.
Right. I always take the logical approach to things where I want to see him do it before I actually can say definitively that he is going to do it, if that makes sense. We don't really have proof one way or the other.
Nobody knows what he's going to do this offseason,
Right.
but I'd like to believe that if he sees this team as fringe playoff contender this year, that next year with the pitching staff that you're going to have, the guys that are coming through the pipeline, I mean, you're going to have 2 number 1 prospects on your opening day roster.
And then Jackson Holliday waiting in the wings for 24.
Right. And Colton Cowser's coming, and Grayson and John Means coming back, and you go out and get a free agent starting pitcher. He has to look at it and say, this bat helps us potentially get to a World Series. To me, that's Aaron Judge. To me, that's Aaron Judge.
No, it is Aaron Judge. Yeah. There's no doubt. I mean, among all the guys, if you want a true superstar, that's the guy to get.
He's going to hit 65 home runs this year.
He is, and $35 million, you said earlier, I think that may be a bit light, honestly. I think he might get like 45. The way he's going to win MVP. I mean, there's no question.
Oh, he's by far and away. It should be unanimous.
Yeah.
It's Shohei Ohtani, nice story.
Yeah.
But he won that MVP last year. It's Judge this year, and it's not. He's been the Yankees' offense the last 2 months. Do you think that he does one of those things, like kind of like what Scherzer did, where it's going to be like a 4-year, $164 million deal?
I think it's going to be a short-term, super, super high AAV. Like, he could do $50 million. He could do 3 years, $150 million. I would not be shocked if that happened. Like, this is Aaron Judge, and I don't know if he's a Boris client. He probably is. But I feel that he kind of commands whatever he wants. If you're the MVP, I mean, the way he's going to hit 65 home runs. I mean, it's unreal. Like, the guy is an unbelievable talent. He should be able to command whatever he wants. Yeah, he really should be.
He's going to get whatever the hell he wants.
He can go to someone and be like, I want 55, and they'll probably say, sure.
And he knows that isn't coming from the Yankees.
No.
He knows that. That's like the deal that they offered him, he probably was like, huh. Watch what I do this year.
Right. And the funny thing about that is the breakup has already happened, I think. And I actually did a sounding off where I said Judge wasn't the smartest for turning down that Yankee deal. I said, you've been injured so often, why are you turning that down? But he stayed healthy all year. So I'm eating my words on that one because he's been able to actually stay healthy for the first time in a really long time throughout the entire year, where there just hasn't been a lot of controversy about that. And that's going to be the biggest thing, I think, for all these teams looking at him in free agency.
He's 30 years old.
Right.
And he's had a number of injuries over his career. But when he's healthy, he's the most dangerous hitter.
He's hitting like prime Alex Rodriguez right now.
Yeah.
And it's
better.
unreal.
Oh, better.
Probably better, yeah.
Alex Rodriguez on steroids never sniffed 65.
No, he never did that. But you got a... you got a little cursing school over here, Paul.
Oh, my gosh. That one almost fully came out.
It's a cursing clinic on the back.
Funyuns. He never sniffed 65 Funyuns home runs.
That's correct.
Oh, my gosh. That was like the closest I've come at any point on this show.
It's okay.
Oh, man. See,
probably.
I think that Alex Rodriguez gets me so fired up.
I bet he does.
I hate Alex Rodriguez. I can't stand Alex Rodriguez. Alex Rodriguez had all the talent in the world to be a generational superstar, and he was a generational superstar who got suspended for a full season for using steroids.
So 57 was the most he hit in a year.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. On steroids. Aaron Judge is just a physical freak who's going to hit 65 home runs and yawn while doing it.
Yeah.
He's the most dangerous hitter in that lineup. They have to pitch to him.
He's the most dangerous hitter on the planet.
And he still is hitting 65 home runs this year.
Yeah.
A-Rod can't hold his jock.
And if you've seen the Yankee lineups as of late, he is the only one really there right now. The Yankee lineups have been horrible. I mean, they're starting guys that I've never heard of at some points, and I'm going, wow, this is a big fall for the Yankees.
Isaiah Kiner-Falefa hit 1 home run like the first 120 games, and he's got 2 home runs the last week.
In Yankee Stadium, I guess, but still.
Yeah. How do you only hit 3 home runs and you play 81 of your games at Yankee Stadium?
It's a good question.
That's
a good question.
That's insane to me. Insane. Good banter.
One other thing, though, when Alex Rodriguez did hit that 57 home run season, he did not play. I mean, that was with Texas, so he wasn't playing in Yankee Stadium. So I guess that's a little more impressive. But he never did that with the Yankees. The most he hit with the Yankees
54.
was 54.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's still a lot of home runs.
It is. It's a lot of home runs.
That's a lot of home runs. But he even admitted he started using steroids in Texas.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. It's the juice, man. And what makes me so mad about A-Rod is that he was a scumbag about it. He lied about it. But more so than anything else, He didn't need to do it.
No, not at all.
He didn't need to do it.
Barry Bonds didn't either.
Barry Bonds didn't need to do it. Barry Bonds couldn't get his. Barry Bonds is arguably the greatest baseball player of all time, and his ego wouldn't let
got in the way.
Wouldn't let Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa steal the limelight, especially when they were using it too. So he said, "You want to give them all the attention? Watch what happens when I use
screw
it."
it.
And then he goes out and hits 73 home runs. Anyway, good banter. Good banter. Today's Orioles banter has been brought to you by the latest edition of Press Box, which is available now on the cover. Bo Smolka profiles Ravens tight end Mark Andrews' path to NFL stardom, from his late decision to play the sport full-time through having to overcome type 1 diabetes and more. Also inside, we introduce you to football players at Maryland, Navy, Towson, and Morgan as the season is now underway, and everything you need to know for betting football this season. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com. Real quick note, they have had a typo in this read since we got it weeks ago. It says Andrews Parth to NFL Stadium, to NFL Stadium, not Path, and I have to do it every single time. Anyway, Bat Around will be back next to close things out with Take the Rake.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
Come in for Glory Burgers, Glory Wings. There's glory for everyone at Glory Days Grill. Enjoy their award-winning burgers, ribs, and wings, or try the fresh salads, hand-cut salmon, or the scrumptious sandwiches. Yum! Come in for the daily specials every weekday, like $7.99 burgers on Mondays and $6.99 nachos on Thursdays. Dine in and let us serve you, or order online at glorydaysgrill.com and take it home. That's glorydaysgrill.com for a location near you. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Have you been to Guilford Hall Brewery? Located in Baltimore's Station North neighborhood, Guilford Hall Brewery breaks the craft brew mold with their great handcrafted microbrews and amazing Bavarian-style food selections. Join Guilford Hall 7 days a week for Orioles, Ravens, and all of your favorite college games. Make plans now to watch the big games, play trivia, or bring your dog for Yappy Hour. They even have free valet service on Friday and Saturday nights. Go to guilfordhall.com for a complete schedule of events, beer listings, and food and drink specials. We'll see you at Guilford Hall Brewery.
This is the sound of 70,000 Ravens fans cheering a win. And this is the sound of Diane Heil of Annapolis cheering her own Ravens win.
Woohoo! Seats for 20 years!
Last year, Diane played Maryland Lottery Raven Scratch-Offs and won Raven season tickets for 20 years. Look for Raven Scratch-Offs at any Maryland Lottery retailer. You could win up to $100,000 or great Ravens prizes. Take it from Diane.
It's surreal, and it's exciting, and I literally can't wait.
Please play responsibly.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka profiles Ravens tight end Mark Andrews' path to NFL stardom, from his late decision to play the sport full-time through having to overcome type 1 diabetes and more. Also, inside, we introduce you to football players at Maryland, Navy, Towson, and Morgan State. And we give you everything you need to know for betting football this season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of demos, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
See Olympic athletes in action as the nation's best horses and riders compete in one of the world's premier equestrian events at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Academy, October 13th through 16th in Cecil County. Don't miss the breathtaking excitement of the dynamic cross-country competition or the elegance of dressage and precision of show jumping. There's also great shopping and activities, including a fresh food fest, corgi race, and a beer, wine, and spirits showcase. So come enjoy a beautiful fall day at the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, October 13th through 16th. Learn more and buy tickets at maryland5star.us.
All right, welcome back to the Bat Around, coming to you live on a beautiful Saturday here in Baltimore, and it's been a good show. Dan Connolly was fantastic. Stan was good as always. Really nice Orioles banter segment, and something that we had to push because we only had a little bit of time, only had a small window with Dan today, was sounding off with Zach Goodman, which is brought to you by Press Box's Glenn Clark Radio, which is the definitive place to find the best daily discussion of Baltimore sports. Watch the show every weekday from 10 to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or listen to PressBoxOnline.com/radio with podcasts available on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. You never know who might pop up on GCR. This week, the guys caught up with Jackson Holliday, Taryn Vavra, Hall of Famer James Lofton, and Jets tight end Calvert Hall alum Lawrence Cager. Find those interviews and the Tyus Bowser Show with special guest Justin Houston now in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature right now at PressBoxOnline.com. Zach, what do you got for us on Sounding Off?
Yeah, I've done a lot of segments on it. It's become like a narrative of mine on the show that I love WAR. And WAR is the stat that I have always kind of looked at that defines...
what is it good for?
Well, it's good.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it. It's a stat that kind of defines a player holistically for me. It's one that shows, basically all their flaws and all the things they do well all in one place. And I think it's the defining stat of, modern baseball to me. It's the defining stat of modern baseball. And it looks like, I've made arguments in the past that I think the arbitration process and even the pre-arbitration process should be more driven by WAR. And maybe I haven't always made the most sound arguments there because this is about guys getting paid. And maybe I've said some things that are maybe not quite in line with getting the guys the most money possible and all that. And I want to support players getting paid as much as possible. Mm-hmm. But WAR definitely makes it a little more interesting to me. And I really think we should be incorporating WAR as much as possible into these arbitration processes. So, lo and behold, that is actually what's going to happen. So, according to the ESPN, as of a few days ago, baseball's
according to the ESPN?
According to ESPN. Baseball's new pre-arbitration bonus program includes money based on a new version of WAR. This is a version of WAR that I guess Major League Baseball is putting together, but it's going to be somewhat similar to Fangraphs WAR and Baseball Reference WAR and all like the regular ones.
Will this be the official WAR?
I guess it would be, but I don't know because everyone calculates it just slightly differently. Like if you look at Fangraphs, it's not going to be quite the same as Baseball Reference, so I'm assuming this is going to be the same way, but their exact parameters of how they calculate it are never probably going to be released. But the way that they say they're going to do it is there's going to be offensive and defensive metrics for position players, and then for pitchers, it's going to be largely based on FIP and runs allowed per 9 innings. So the offensive defensive metrics, way too many for me to go and list. That's why I just put that there. But essentially how this is going to work is it's going to reward players, especially those who are standouts at the beginning of their career, guys that are winning Rookie of the Year or even winning MVP in their rookie year or second year, guys that are pre-arbitration eligible. And the remaining money that isn't distributed through award voting is going to be handed out to the guys that are in the top 100 players as far as WAR goes. So this is going to be, again, based off their WAR and not so much Baseball Reference or Fangraphs.
Is this for arbitration eligible players or all players?
This is pre-arbitration eligible bonus program. How this is. So this is for the guys that are pre-arbitration eligible.
So the guys who are going to make the league minimum. But if you're in the top 100 for WAR, you get a bump.
I believe that's how they're saying this is going to work. Right. So WAR is basically driving, essentially, how much these guys are getting paid. And again, you're going to make a lot more if you're winning Rookie of the Year and you're winning awards, whatever it is. Even if you win a Cy Young in your second year, however much it is, that's a lot of that reward money is going to go to you. But the guys who finish in the top 100 of WAR also going to get a nice handout of bonus money coming from just finishing there. So I think that's really cool, and I think that baseball should really be incorporating some of these metrics in how much guys are getting paid, because I think it's really interesting. And I know a lot of the arbitration process is largely based on batting average and home runs still, because that's what everyone knows and kind of goes along with. But we incorporate more of WAR into it and other offensive and defensive metrics. It's going to make it a lot more interesting, especially for fans.
Yeah, no, I agree that it'll be interesting to see if Major League Baseball's WAR is lower than Fangraphs and Baseball Reference.
Yeah, usually Baseball Reference is a little more generous than Fangraphs from my experience. Like, I believe Adley Rutschman is still in the 3s as far as Fangraphs go, but he's like 4.6 now for Baseball Reference. So it definitely differs a little bit.
But
their exact formulas are so confusing.
It'll be interesting, though, to see if Major League Baseball is lower than both of those.
Right.
Because then it's Major League Baseball was staunchly against paying players more money, right?
Sure, I don't blame them.
In the pre-arbitration and the arbitration process, and now we're going to give you bonus money based on our algorithm to calculate our WAR.
But I still think, though, winning awards is that's not something they're choosing for the most part. I mean, that's picked by the writers, obviously. So they're
but WAR is WAR. That's not an award. It's WAR. You can't spell award without WAR.
I understand, but I'm just saying that's the award winning is part of the program as well, and then the top 100 guys are the other guys getting this reward money.
Well, right. So but I don't know. It's very, very conspiracy theorist.
Okay.
Of me. I don't actually think that is what they would do, but I can see people raising questions.
So you think they're going to maybe skew it for some guys they would not want to potentially hand out as much money for?
I don't think they're going to skew it. I think people are going to make the argument that they do.
Got it. I think I understand.
It strikes me as odd that Major League Baseball, that the Players Association, the Players Union, would put it in the hands of Major League Baseball's WAR calculations.
No, that is interesting. It's a good point. Maybe we'll hear more about it in the next.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be going in effect next year, I believe. So
I think
we'll hear more about it.
What they would have to do is they would have to make it very public and have independent parties calculate the WAR for them,
and that might be what happens
instead of it being somebody that's on the Major League Baseball payroll.
That's almost has to be what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting. WAR is an incredibly valuable rating for players. So
it's my narrative on the show. It's the one thing I always say week to week.
Oh no, when I look at players, I look at their WAR.
Absolutely, 100%.
I look at their WAR to see how valuable they are. I mean, Ryan Mountcastle, he's a one-win player this year, and he's been so good defensively. His offense has been league average. In my opinion.
I would say it might be even a little worse. One WAR is certainly nothing to write home about, but
and that's according to Baseball Reference.
Yeah.
So. All right, very good, Zach, very good. Now it's time for everybody's favorite take to rake. Last week, Zach took Gunnar Henderson. He went 6 for 24, a double, 3 RBIs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. That's a 250, 333, 292 slash line with a 625 OPS. I took Ryan Mountcastle, 6 for 27, 2 home runs, 2 doubles, 9 RBIs. 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, a 222, 276, 519 slash line with a 795 OPS. I think we can agree that Mountcastle wins this.
Slightly, yeah. The OPS gives it away.
The OPS and the production. Henderson had the better batting average, and he had the better on-base percentage.
Yeah.
But Mountcastle did more with his hits. He had, of his 6 hits, 4 for extra base, 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and he drove in 9 runs.
Yeah.
This week, I think that wins.
Yeah, I'll give that one.
Yeah, I think that wins. So with that in mind, every time I take Adley Rutschman, he has one of his worst weeks. He's 10 for his last 24 going into last night's ball game. The other shoe's going to drop on Gunnar Henderson soon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to take Adley Rutschman.
Okay.
I'm going to do it one more time. I feel like he can't screw me over 3 times, right? I love this guy. He can't screw me over 3 times.
I mean, maybe he might.
All right, who you got?
Give me Tony Taters.
Tony Taters.
I'm kind of confident what he's been doing lately. Cedric Mullins would be a good choice this week too, but yeah, give me Tony.
All right, Tony Taters. For Zach, I take Adley Rutschman. We will see how that pans out next week.
I feel weird holding the microphone like this. Do you think this looks? How does this look over here?
It looks fine.
Looks normal? Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
it looks fine.
Good.
You look relaxed.
I'm relaxed.
All right. So it's going to lead us into final thoughts. And my final thought is not going to be a popular one.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I have never fully believed that the Orioles were going to make the playoffs this year. I've fully believed that they're a good team and that they're going to finish above 500. But it has never entered my mind that they were actually going to make the playoffs. Because of the teams in front of them and because, frankly, the way that the ball club has been managed in what I consider to be key situations. Mm-hmm. They lost 3 or 4 to the Blue Jays. They're not, Stan laid it out. They're not catching Seattle. They're not catching Tampa Bay. The Yankees maybe, but the Yankees will have to continue to fall. And there might just not be enough time left to catch them. So their biggest chance is against the Blue Jays. They've got 6 games left against Toronto. Does Toronto have 5 games left against the Rays or 9? I think it's 9.
I don't know.
Toronto plays Tampa Bay quite a bit down the stretch. I don't think that the Orioles, as good as they've been this year, I think they're running out of gas.
I agree.
And at 4.5 games back, the problem is you needed to sweep Oakland. Mm-hmm. You lost to the A's last Sunday in a game that frankly wasn't competitive, and every team in front of you won.
Yeah,
so you lost ground. You lose 3 or 4 to Toronto. You barely win that game last night against Boston. You have to sweep Boston.
Yeah.
You have to sweep D.C. You have to sweep Detroit, and I don't think they're going to sweep any of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust that they're going to win. That they're going to win on Sunday ever again this year. They don't win day games.
The lineups are part of the problem.
Yeah, and the regular lineup isn't hitting, and then you're going to play the guys who don't hit in general. If the Orioles win today, I feel like they should go for the sweep, especially with Monday being an off day.
Yeah.
Go for the sweep tomorrow. But no matter what happens, Adley Rutschman's not catching tomorrow because it's a day game after a night game.
Right.
This kid's 24 years old.
Yeah.
Let him catch the day game after a night game with an off day the next day. I don't have the faith that the Orioles are going to win enough with all the teams in front of them playing as well as they are. The Orioles are very good. I think they'll end this year with about 85 wins.
Yeah.
Which is a really good year.
Really
especially when you won 52 games last year. This season is a wild success.
85,
and like Mike Elias said, it's liftoff from here.
Right.
The future is so bright, and it's here now.
Yeah.
Right? And I look at this team like I look at the 2013 Orioles. Mm-hmm. You played so well all year, but down the stretch you kind of collapsed. And it's not even that they've collapsed, it's that they're not as good as the teams in front of them. And I hate to say that, but they aren't. They're not as good as the teams in front of them. It's been a great season. I think they can get to the playoffs. I don't think they will.
Yeah.
And that's my final thought, is that the Orioles, as good as they are and as great as the story as they've been, they're not quite a playoff team right now. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I'm with you. And I'll make mine quick because it sort of encapsulates yours a little bit. But I think that fans have to prepare for some of the players they like to be moved. And that this team...
We say this all the time.
This team we have now, this team we're looking at right now as Orioles fans, is going to be very different come 2023. I think there are going to be a lot of changes. And some guys that you like right now, probably not going to be here. And that's just the way it is. And the fact is that the Orioles are probably not going to make the playoffs this year. And the fact is also that they want to make the playoffs next year and that they're going to have to make a push and going to have to add players that are better than the Odors of the world and the Nevins of the world, the Chirinoses of the world. Once you start adding in these players, it's going to take this team from what's an 85-win team now, a good team, to a great team. And it may mean trading Cedric Mullins. It may mean trading Austin Hayes. These guys, there's going to be some change. So I would say just prepare for it, and it's going to make them a better team. It's going to make them a more exciting team to watch in the long run. That's how it works. Change has been pretty prevalent in this rebuild. So it's, just prepare for more of it and know that Mike Elias is not going to stop now.
And the thing is, getting rid of some of these guys, trading away some of these guys, it might not even hurt when you see it because it depends on what they're being traded for.
Sure, if it's a great enough return, then sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, if you're trading, say you trade Ramon Arias and you get some prospects for him, and you're like, I can't believe. But then 3 days later, they go out and they sign Trey Turner.
Right.
Then you're like,
then you understand.
Oh, okay, I get it. Bear with them. This off, God, man, this is. I'm actually more excited for this offseason than I am for the end of this season.
100%.
Like I'm so excited for what's going to happen this offseason for the Orioles because I'm taking Michael Elias at his word. He said that he's going to go out there and he's going to spend. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be so much fun.
Me too.
Or mind-numbingly insane. like to the point where I want to throw things through the window.
That could also be the case.
Yeah, we'll see. Before we get out of here, Ravens kick off the season tomorrow. I believe they're 6.5 point favorites.
6.5 points, yeah.
Against the New York Jets playing in New York.
Yes.
I feel like this shouldn't be close. Joe Flacco is starting for the Jets.
Yeah.
The Jets made a lot of nice moves in the draft and in the offseason.
Great draft. Oh my gosh.
They're not ready to beat the Ravens.
No.
This ain't the Raiders against the Ravens last year.
And this isn't even the Zach Wilson Jets.
Yeah. And not to mention the fact that, knock on wood, the Ravens are far healthier right now than they were last year.
Finally, yeah.
I don't expect Dobbins to play.
No.
He's questionable, but I don't expect him to play. Stanley's doubtful.
He's not going to play.
He's not going to play. But I also think that people are so quick to write off the Ravens as not having a contingency plan, right? I don't honestly believe that the Ravens made that mistake last year with Ronnie Stanley, and then they made the same mistake again this year.
Well, that's why they went out and signed Juwan James.
Right.
I think that's the number one reason.
Well, Juwan James was signed last year.
Right, but that's why they went out and signed him last year.
He had also never played left tackle.
I think the reason they signed Juwan James is he played right tackle though, so it's a change for sure.
He likened it to wiping your butt with your opposite.
He did
hand.
say, I know he did say that, and it's probably true, but it's better than moving a center to tackle in that situation. Yeah. So he's got the physical capability to play there. It's just now learning that position and essentially doing everything backwards from what he did before. So but I think they signed him last season because I think they knew someone was going to pick him up soon, and they wanted to just sign him and make sure they got him as the contingency plan. That's what he is.
If you listen to some of those people that talk Monday through Friday in a certain time slot, they think that the Ravens' offensive line isn't good because they have no backup plan for Ronnie Stanley.
Listen, Patrick McCary is a very good player.
He's a very good player.
Very versatile,
and he's gonna be all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, you brought in Morgan Moses, who's made 169 starts out of 170 career games at right tackle.
Love that guy.
Kevin Zeitler didn't allow a sack last year at right guard. You got the best, maybe the best center of the last 25 years in the draft in Tyler Linderbaum. The best draft prospect, at center in Tyler Linderbaum. Not sure about left guard.
I don't mind Ben Powers.
Yeah, and then at left tackle, we haven't seen Juwan James for me to say anything definitively about him. So I just come back to there's no way that a team led by John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta legitimately said it's Stanley or bust and didn't make any contingency plan.
No way.
I remember when the Ravens they brought in Bryant McKinney. And they had Jared Gaither.
Yep.
And everybody was like, oh, Gaither's going to play left tackle and McKinney is going to play right tackle. And it looked like that all through the preseason. And then when the games started,
switch.
McKinney was at left tackle and Gaither was at right tackle. I don't, for 1 second, think that the Ravens don't have a plan in place. I think Lamar Jackson playing for a contract, Stan said he balked up and he's nervous. I'm more excited. I think it makes him stronger, and I think he still has the elite speed and elusiveness. Lamar Jackson is about to go bananas.
I think so too.
This year, he's going to go absolutely bonkers. This year, we're going to see a season like we've never seen before. I don't know that he's going to throw for 4,000 yards, but he's got two legitimate tight ends he can throw past to. He's got Rashad Bateman. He's got a good running game behind him. This is going to be an incredible year for Lamar Jackson. Do you have what are your expectations for this season?
I predict them to throw a lot more. I think they're going to design a better passing offense this year, and they've got the tools to do it. They don't think they do, but they do. I mean, guys like Isaiah Likely, they've got to get that guy involved because I think he's going to be a stud. I'm very confident in that. And Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman are really, really good talents. So you get them involved more than previous years. I want to see 1,200 yards from Rashad Bateman this year, and maybe 1,400 from Mark Andrews. I mean, he might not get that high, but he was a 1,000-yard receiver last year.
I think you can expect to see that flipped.
It could be. It could be, and a lot of touchdowns on both sides. They don't have a strong running game this week. Kenyon Drake's fine, Mike Davis fine, whatever. I'm not really too excited about those guys. Once you get J.K. and Gus back, all right, then you can start pounding the rock. But I want to see them absolutely destroy the Jets in the air tomorrow. I want to see what Lamar Jackson did against the Miami Dolphins Week 1 in 2019 when he threw for 400 some yards,
like 380 and 5 touchdowns.
Right, he threw 5 touchdowns. Right, so. I want to see them do that. I think they can attack the Jets. I don't think the Jets are a strong team. They did draft very well, but the Jets are one of those teams, kind of like the Orioles were last year, where they're right on the brink of making that jump up, and they're right on the brink of being good again, but I don't think they're there yet. And, guys like Breece Hall, he's a rookie. Guys like Sauce Gardner is a rookie. It's going to take some time. And Joe Flacco, he threw the worst pick six I've ever seen in the preseason. So I'm not exactly high on Joe Flacco at this point in his career. He's never beaten the Ravens, obviously, because he's only played them, I think, once outside of.
He's never played them.
He hasn't played them at all.
Never
Okay.
played them.
I thought they did play the Broncos with him, but I could be wrong. No. Okay. Well, he's only hasn't beaten 2 teams in football. One of them is obviously the Ravens. I'm not entirely sure who the other team is, but Flacco, it might be a little bit of a revenge game for him, but I don't have any confidence in him being able to lead the Jets to a win. So, do you want to make our picks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect.
I'll let you go first.
Give me Ravens 34, Jets 13.
Ravens 37, Jets 17.
Okay, pretty close.
Yeah, I think the Ravens secondary is going to feast on Joe Flacco. I really want to see what this pass rush is going to look like.
I do think Marcus Peters will be limited, though.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. But we will see. Should be an exciting season. I can't wait for it to get started. My birthday's on Tuesday.
I know.
So it's a celebration for my birthday tomorrow.
Yeah.
The Ravens hopefully will give me a victory. And it is a bat-around matchup in the Press Box Fantasy Football League. You and I are facing off week 1.
Oh, are we?
Zach auto-drafted his entire team, and he has no idea who's on his team.
And
he's playing me tomorrow.
That league. Okay, I was thinking of the other league.
No.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. I play the guy who took. I faced the guy who took the Ravens defense in the 3rd round.
Someone dropped. I don't know who it was, but he had Stephon Diggs. I'm not sure because I don't know many people in that league. But I got dropped 47 on Thursday night.
I got dropped 48.
So I'm 47 down on just by 2 players. So this is going to be rough for me.
The guy I faced, he had Josh Allen.
Okay.
Who got him 40 points, but then he had he had Allen Robinson, who only got him 2 points, and he had the kicker Gay.
So the guy I faced had Stephon Diggs, who dropped 39, and then I believe the other kicker. So it was he had 8. So
yeah, it was
rough.
I'm still projected to win.
I am not.
I feel like I finally have solid teams this year. Last year was like the least amount of fun I've ever had playing.
Can I just say one thing real quick? Laura's team is unreal. Like Laura's team is absolutely insane.
Laura is stupid good at fantasy football.
She clearly is. Like
Laura has won more fantasy football championships. Laura's my wife.
Yeah.
Laura's first year ever playing fantasy football, she won her brother's league.
Her
then
team
then the next year, I think she came in second, but she won her work league. She won our league last year against her brother. And the year before that, she won her brother's league again. She's been playing fantasy football since 2018. Since 2017. She has like 4 or 5 championships. She is so freaking good at fantasy football, and it's crazy because she doesn't talk about football that often at all. But she sure as hell knows what she's doing.
Definitely.
She is
clearly.
so freaking. It's insane to me. So like people ask me for fantasy football advice. I'm like, ask my wife.
Yeah.
She is so damn good at fantasy football.
Yeah.
It's insane. All right, that's going to do it for us on the Bat Around. Thank you so much to Stan the Fan Charles for his weekly segment. Thank you to Dan Connolly for another great segment with us. Thank you to Zach Goodman, and thanks to all of our sponsors. Great show. Go Ravens. Go O's. We'll see you next week.